Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Talking TV with my mum, the weekly Geek-Dom podcast where we chat about geek/genre TV shows and we give our views and opinions and do a roundup review of all of those things. And this week is a very special episode. It's our 25th and we've got a special guest and we will get to that in a moment. Very exciting. So thank you very much for joining us and thank you for tuning in and letting us entertain you for a little while. So this week we have a bit of a chat at the beginning. Like I say, we have a guest on. We are also going to be discussing the usual show, so that'll be Fear the Walking Dead, continuing with Stranger Things season 3, and finally ending with Preacher. A bit light on the news this week, but we do have some comments and stuff to go through as well, so we'll get to all of that. The usual housekeeping applies, so if you can leave a like on this video, hit the thumbs up and let us know that you enjoy what we do, that would be greatly appreciated. And also comments, we love your comments, and obviously those of you that listen regularly will know that we go through the comments and we have a chat about them, and we especially like your feedback, we like your opinions, and we also like your questions. And also subscribe to the channel. If you're new here, or even if you're not, and you just haven't made that leap yet, please pledge allegiance to the Geek-Dom. That would be great. We would really, really appreciate you joining us here or joining me here. And yeah, that would be fantastic. Check out my description box for the link to my Twitter so you can come and follow and chat to me on there. And also my donation medium links are there too. So should you feel generous enough to drop me a few coins of your country's denomination that will go towards supporting the podcast, the channel, future projects, and, you know, maybe one day turning this into a full-time job for me, feel free to do that. There are, like I said, the links there, 2 different options to choose from, but you're under no obligation to do so at the same time. And that's that. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my co-host. So hello there, Mum. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Dom. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Yeah, all going well with you?
Yeah, all good. Yep.
Cool. Bit of a different setup for us this week. We're obviously recording this through Discord now, as opposed to Skype.
Yes.
Hopefully that will be evident in the audio when you guys are listening/watching this. And
yeah, I hope so.
I can't believe we got to 25 episodes.
I know. It's our silver anniversary.
It's our silver anniversary, yes. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
I'd never dreamed that we would get this far, but we have. So we thought we would mark that occasion by doing something a little bit special. And we've had some ideas about some other stuff we want to do going forward. You know, we're still looking into making this an audio podcast at some point. We're looking into merchandise things, so keep your eyes peeled for things like that. But we also wanted to do some other stuff, and so we decided that episode 25 was as good as any, didn't we, Mum?
Yeah, to have a special treat.
A very special treat. So we will not delay this any further. We're going
down under.
We are going down under, indeed, and we are going to bring on a very special guest. I'm very excited to have him with us. He's a geek as well as a gamer. He is a beautiful beardy man. He comes from a land down under. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Whoisskippy.
How the bloody hell are yous?
Hello, Skippy.
How we doing?
Oh, we're good.
All the
It's
better
good to
for
be on the
talking to you.
podcast. Oh, thank you. I love the introduction. I love being called a beautiful bearded man. Makes me feel sexy.
Well, I was gonna use the other word that I normally use when I say things to you on Twitter and stuff, but I thought we're a bit early into the podcast to go into profanity, so I'll steer clear of that one.
Yeah, we got to wait about 50 seconds or something to get that right. This isn't going to work for me, man. You've seen my videos. I swear all the time.
It's great to have you on, man. Obviously, as I said,
It's good to be on.
As I said in the intro, obviously, you know, those out there in the world of YouTube are aware of you for your gaming, and especially at the moment, very successful series with your XCOM 2 Let's Take friends, followers, and subscribers and put them into the game series.
Yeah.
And that's going great for you, isn't it?
It is, man. And honestly, it's a nice change. It really is a nice change. And yeah, like you said, it's more successful than I ever thought it was. I mean, it started just as a way for me to, you know, just include the people I've made friends with on Twitter, like yourself. So I'm just so happy it's turned out so well.
I don't normally like fighting games, but I love that. That's my favourite.
And now that you've mentioned it, I'll say on air, thank you for subscribing to my channel, Bernadette.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Oh yes.
You're my new number one fan. I don't know how Dom feels about that.
It's fine. It's fine. You know, I'm just worried that, you know, this popularity of mums is sort of getting away from us a bit now, and she's going to go on and strike out on her own eventually.
We'll be changing the name soon, saying "Talking TV with my son."
Yeah. The Geek Mom Show featuring Geek-Dom.
No, the artist formerly known as Geek-Dom.
Except
I was going to say, before, when you were introducing, like, you said guest, it sounded like you said guest Dom, and I thought that would be a cool way if you ever had people on, just to call them a guest Dom.
I'm Geek-Dom and this is my guest Dom.
Yeah, that sounds good. I like that.
Oh man. Yeah. It's just Mum's sort of taken over now. Obviously, you've changed your name for YouTube and everything now, haven't you? You're officially Geek Mom.
Yes.
Great name change.
Well, you give me the name, so you know.
I know, that's why I think it's so fantastic.
Yeah, awesome.
But yeah, definitely getting a bit of a following in your own right now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's been awesome to have you on, because obviously you've been a strong supporter of us. I mean, me in general. I mean, you know, you do a lot for me in regards to watching my videos, shouting me out on Twitter, you know, all of that kind of stuff, which is hugely appreciated. But also, you're a very strong supporter of our podcast, and we always look forward to your questions and your comments every week, because you've always got something fun to say. You always get us thinking about, you know, oh, bloody hell, that's a question that we're really going to have to sort of scratch our heads over and try and work out. And there's times where, you know, we have to look at it in advance and say, if we did this on the spot, we'd just be sat here umming, and there'd be so much that I would have to cut out of us sat for about 10 minutes trying to work out how are we going to answer this question. But you definitely give us stuff to think about. So it's having you on now. It was only right to have you on as the first ever guest.
Definitely.
Oh, well, I feel really chuffed about that. It makes me feel pretty good. I mean, I've enjoyed interacting with you because, you know, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and it's nice that you put the effort in and someone actually notices.
Yeah.
Yeah. I absolutely enjoy giving you guys questions, and some of your answers are really good. I really do enjoy it.
Well, my boss actually gives me the day off to record this now because he knows I do it. So,
so is he
knows
listening
I'm
right
not passionate. Maybe not. He's probably at work.
now? That's no excuse. I listen to podcasts.
No, not in our shop. Not in a bookies. I don't think so.
Probably not then.
Well, you should like put it. You have music and you have speakers and stuff in the bookies.
No, there's the televisions, isn't it?
Oh yeah, there's no like music system. I was going to say, if there was a music system, you could have found a way to hook it all up, and you could have just played the podcast.
Oh, if I worked in Tesco's or somewhere, I would just linked it all up.
It would be a whole lot better than the actual music they play.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, anyway, so as we said, you know, everyone knows you as a gamer and stuff like that, but we know you as a geek, and you're like us. You like a lot of genre TV shows and sci-fi, fantasy, horror, that kind of thing. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, what are you watching at the moment, and what are your, you know, say, I don't know, maybe top 2 geek TV shows of all time? You know, what really inspires you? What do you love about this sort of geeky
That's
world?
a tough one, man. It's really tough. I mean, recently, probably not too much. I mean, I listen to your podcast for a reason, because I don't catch up on a lot of the newer stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're talking favorites, I'd have to say first up is Firefly. I love that show. Like, I remember being a kid and watching that on my local cable, and I would come home and I'd be so excited for the new episode. And you can only imagine how I felt when they said there was no other season after the first season.
Yeah.
But after that, I would say it's a cartoon. It's the Rebel series, the Star Wars Rebel series.
Oh yeah.
I watched a lot of Clone Wars, and Clone Wars was fine, but Rebels was it was awesome, man. It was a really good series. And there's others, but those are the ones that come to mind. And, you know, if they're the ones that come to mind, they're obviously the ones I think of the most.
Yeah.
Mm.
Awesome.
But like most people, man, I watch it all. Like if it's nerdy, if it's sci-fi, it's me, man. I'm all over it. I wouldn't mind just getting into it because that's my thing.
Is there a particular program that you've been watching in recent times?
I'd have to say Stranger Things is probably the most recent one I watched. I just finished the 3rd season before you guys got into it.
Okay.
That was, a really good season, actually.
Yeah. Well, we're up to, I think in today's episode, we're going to be chatting and reviewing episode 7, The Bite, I think it's called. So we're closing in on the end. So obviously next week will be the finale episode. We've both watched the whole show now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to give anything away, but it is such a good ending. And
yeah, I mean, it definitely was a good ending, and I'm looking forward to where they go with the next season. I mean, I've got a whole host of questions, but we won't talk about that now because obviously it will sort of preempt anything to do with our review. But suffice to say, next week when we talk about the finale episode, I'm going to have a few things to say.
I would tell the people just get strapped in and ready because it gets
I'm gonna have a few things to say, a few observations I've made, a few speculations I've got, and things like that. So I'm looking forward to getting on to the finale next week so that we can chat about all of that. But it's worked out really well as well. The timeline, because we chose to do it as a week to week, we've managed to do it so that we do the finale episode next week, and then we then have got a replacement the following week because American Horror Story is back on the 18th of September. So when
they
we
do another season.
Yeah, it's 1984. Oh, wow. This one is.
Damn, they've done so many now.
I know, it's like the 7th season or something like that.
Because I remember when it started, and that was bloody ages ago, dude.
Yeah, it's been going for a fair few years now, but I'm hoping that it's going to be a good one. That, you know, obviously they're taking it back in time to the 80s and stuff. I think they probably looked at the success of things like Stranger Things and went, oh, we can do a nostalgia tinged thing as well, so we'll take it back to that.
But you got to think also, man, like the 80s is prime time for horror and all that sort of thing. I mean, come on, we grew up in that age, dude. Like those are some of the best horror films you'll ever watch.
Exactly, and also, you know, like so with the success of Stranger Things, with the success of the It movie, you know, those kind of things, and the 80s in general is still looked at very, very fondly, and a lot of the franchises from that era are still held in such high regard. So it makes sense for them, I suppose, to go, let's try and get a slice of that pie and let's try and do it. So I just hope they do it like, I hope they do it like Stranger Things, in the look of the show looks as if it could have been on in the 80s.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things I really like about Stranger Things, is that the attention to detail is like not just the story is set in that time period, but everything, you know, they went out and found Coke cans and things that existed at that time period. They signage for like, I don't know, like McDonald's and things like that, the way it looked back then, and the clothing, the hairstyles, the color grain they use on the camera when they're recording it to make it look as if you could look at Stranger Things. If nobody told you it was a brand new show and you just saw this thing, you could believe that it was a show that was made in the 80s.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. And like you said, it's one of the points of the show that attention to detail just means so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. But like I said, timing wise, it's great because it means we finish Stranger Things and then the following week we move on and we start the first episode of the new season of American Horror Story. So one ends and gives way to another new thing, which, like I said, you know, we couldn't have planned that out any better because we didn't. It's only been by virtue of just the timelines that it's kind of ended up that way.
Yeah, when something like that happens, you just say a wizard did it. It's magic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a wizard did it. Yeah. Oh yeah, brilliant. Okay, so that's, you know, like I say, we've talked a little bit about you and about your interests and your influences and things like that. We're going to get on to a little bit of news in a moment. I haven't got as much news this week. It's been a fairly quiet week from that regard, we've also got a couple of comments to go through. What I think we're going to do, because we always seem to end on your question. We always seem to end on your comment for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I do that subconsciously or not, but
maybe you're trying to tell me you hate me. I don't know.
Oh, no, it's saving the best for last, mate. Saving the best for
last. Good cover.
So we're going to do the same there. I'll go through the comments, and then I will throw it over to you to give us your bit of, verbal feedback this week rather than written, and also your question that you've got for us.
Yeah.
I swear, if we could figure it out somehow, doing a question from Skippy's pouch as a weekly feature on the show, just like having you come in, like I'll get you to record the question and just insert it into the podcast, like as a bit on the show.
that would be awesome, and I could see what I could do for you, dude, if you really want to try that. I mean, I've got recording software on this laptop, so it could just be a case of record it and maybe just email it to you.
That would be great, because then I can just splice it in when I'm doing the editing, because, let's be honest, we do it every week anyway, and 9 times out of 10, when you're writing the question, you seem to phrase it with, got another question for you from Skippy's pouch. So it's like, well, why not make it into a thing, like a feature on the show? And every week we have the, question from Skippy's pouch, and rather than me just reading what you've written, having you say it, and having that clip of you just asking us the question and then us responding to it.
That's it. You just give the people what they want. Skippy by the barrelful.
Yeah. I'm expecting this video to blow up, now, because we've got you on it.
When people, I wouldn't say too much.
when people catch wind of the fact that we got you on as guest, I'm hoping that this video is going to go into the stratosphere.
I'm going to tell you now, I wouldn't be holding your breath, dude.
Well, you're a pretty popular guy in our community. You've got a lot of love, a lot of fans out there. So
I don't take compliments well, dude. I don't. I really should just say thank you. I appreciate it, and yes, you are going to be successful after I appear. But I try to be real about it, I guess.
Oh, I don't know.
Do I get like a cool intro for it?
Yeah, we'll come up with something. I'll find some music, and I'll find something, to make it like a thing. It won't just be, and now here's a question from Skippy, and it will just be switched to your voice. We'll have like a little bit of a, I'll find some kind of like, I don't know, I'll see if I can find a copyright-free version of Waltz and Matilda or something.
No, we're gonna make it a copyright-free version of Men at Work, Land Down Under. Man. It has to be better. That's the unofficial Australian anthem.
Indeed, it is, yeah.
Get some Crowded House in there or something,
Why not?
No, I tell you who probably isn't copywritten, because, let's be honest, his singing career was a bit down the toilet. We'll see if we can find something by Stephen Dennis.
Perfect. You'll never know.
Because you're running a risk. If you go for Kylie or Jason or even Danny or Craig McLaughlin or Holly Valance or something, the likelihood is it's going to get picked up. But Stephen Dennis, I don't think many people know that he actually released a couple of singles. So
that's it. People stopped caring years ago.
There'll be people that won't even know his name. They'll be like, "Who's Stephen? Paul Robinson? Oh yeah, I didn't know what his real name was."
He might become popular though, Dom. He might get popular again.
We'll end up having him on the show.
have to re-release the song or something.
But yeah, I'll find some music and stuff that I can put, to lead into it, and then we'll have that as a segment every week.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
You have to make him a T-shirt then. Question from the pouch.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe we see what we could do there.
You can make it into like a hoodie, and you can have my character's head just coming out the side of the hand part.
Yeah, definitely. Right, okay, so now we've had a little bit of a getting to know you and general sort of bit of chit chat, Skippy. We are going to move on to the section of the show where we do the comments. Now, We'll do the comments, and then I've got a little bit of news, and then we'll be done with this section. So we're going to alternate it. So you've kindly agreed to go through some of the comments with me.
I certainly have.
So I'm going to throw it over to you. So away you go, mate.
All right. Well, the first one is from Big Retro Show, a mad agent on Twitter and YouTube.
Yep.
He says, "I love the format of this podcast. Your mum is so cool. Completely agree. Wish my mum would talk to me like yours does. Well done."
See, this is what I'm saying. All this this support for you. You're taking over.
That's it. It's the Geek Mum Show.
Thank you very much for that comment, man. I appreciate it. And yeah, check out Big Retro Show's channel. He's got a great little channel there, and a cool format that he started recently with the reverse pickups giveaway thing.
Yeah.
I like that idea of rather than just doing the whole sort of flexing on, I got this, I got that, I got the other. He's like, I got these things, and now I'm giving them away to you guys.
Yeah,
so,
that's pretty awesome, actually.
It's a pretty cool thing to do. So yeah, he's awesome. Check him out. Okay, so the next one was actually from you, Mum, and it was just in relation to what you said. Obviously, podcast sounded okay, great audio, etc. But then the program we were talking about last week, where we mentioned about the post-apocalyptic future and that it had Sawyer from Lost in and stuff like that, and obviously it was completely wrong. It wasn't Sawyer at all. And as you rightly said, the program was Revolution. It was indeed Revolution, and it was Juliet from Lost that was in it, not Sawyer. And it was that one where it was the guy, wasn't it? And the guy was like, it was almost like they'd gone back, even though it was set in the future, something had happened where all the electricity had gone out in the world and the society had broken down. And then you had almost like a second revolutionary war. And you had the two guys that were best mates. And then one of them went on to become like a real arse. And he was the new president. And his mate broke away from him. And he was like our main hero, who we then discover as it goes on, he's got a bit of a dark past himself kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good show. But yeah, that was the show. And obviously you remembered that it was Revolution. So props to you for that.
Yep. See, good.
Good on you, Geek Mum.
Yeah, good on you, Geek Mum. Right, so then we move on to the next one, Skippy, if you would.
Yeah, we go on to 2-Bit Gaming. Really great blokes. We both know that. And they say, "How was the holiday, Mum? Mandalorian." I was Harry Potter. I was Harry Potter. I know all about it now due to kids, but yeah, I watched everything but Disney for some reason. He goes, how is the Mum versus Dom standoff going to work? God, this means I'm going to have to think, okay, give me a couple of days. I think he also says, I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, the holiday was very good. Thank you very much.
Good.
I'm answering my part of the question.
I was waiting to hear if you were going to say more than that. You just said, holiday was good.
That's short and sweet. That's how it's done.
Yep. Obviously, Mandalorian in capitals, obviously, he's quite excited about that, as I'm sure both you and I are, Skippy.
Oh, I am. The problem is I don't have the Disney network over here.
Well, it's launching in Australia, though.
Is it? I haven't heard any news about it.
Yep, it's going to be launching in the States, in Australia, and a couple of other places. But it's not coming to a lot of countries in Europe. And I actually found out the reason now. So this is kind of news related, but the reason that we're not getting it, and a lot of other European countries aren't getting it at the moment, is because of Disney's deal that they had with Sky TV. Because at the moment on Sky, you've got a channel called Sky Disney.
Yeah.
And those deals are locked down for another year yet. And because of that, it causes legal issues and complications with exclusivity rights and broadcast rights. So as a result, it looks like Disney are going to wait out the contract. And once it's finished, once it's up with Sky and with, I think it's Comcast is the other company now. Once those deals are done, then they will obviously pull that from, or they might say, well, you can carry on showing repeats of old stuff, but from now on, we're going to be showing everything else on our channel, and they'll launch Disney Plus here. So really, really annoying for people in this part, in Europe, that because of these deals, it's going to have an effect on us being able to have access to Disney Plus. So in the meantime, we're going to have to find alternative means to watch some of these programs.
Maybe I can be cheeky and try and download them on my camera and send them to you.
But yeah, so so it is coming. It is coming to Australia. So I don't
That's
know what the
good
date
news
is
for me.
over there yet, but
I feel sorry for you, but I'm happy for myself.
yeah. And that I was Harry Potter thing. That was because obviously last week I'd said about him not watching stuff, and I said, "What, you like
We
Harry
couldn't
Potter
believe
or
we'd
something?"
never seen Disney.
I
You
know,
live in
that's
a
so
cupboard
sad.
under the stairs.
And he grew up in the 90s as well. That's unheard of.
I know, it's crazy,
Yeah,
but he's obviously
bizarre.
catching up now because of his kids. But so in relation to what you said about the mum versus Dom thing, obviously we did go on to backwards and forwards a little bit, and we've come to the conclusion that he's going to come up with the stuff for this quiz, this mum versus Dom quiz.
Yeah.
And I'm going to throw it open to him now, right here publicly on this podcast, and say, Will, we have got Skippy on at the moment, so we now know we can have guests on. So I would like
That's
to
it.
formally invite you to join us once you have come up with some questions. Join us on this podcast as our next guest, as the quiz master. You can ask the questions, we'll answer them, and you can obviously moderate the whole thing. So let me know in the comments your response to that.
And I'm sure he will let you know.
Well, it was his suggestion, so it's only fair, isn't it, that he does
Yeah.
that bit?
Absolutely.
And I've already got everyone on my side anyway, so I'm clearly going to win.
Yeah,
Oh,
'cause
yes.
that brings us on quite nicely to Melly Playful, first time listening and commenting on the podcast. And she started off with a hi, and then Mel goes on to say, she says, your mom sounds adorable. So another compliment to you.
Nobody likes Dom.
I know. It's like, Dom, you're awesome. It's like, your mum's great. We love your mum. Your mum is brilliant. I wish your mum was like my mum. It's like, oh, God's
I'm
sake.
pretty sure even I said that when I first listened to one of your
Yeah,
episodes.
so I've created a monster.
That's it.
No, I
I'm pretty sure it's the other way around. Yeah, exactly.
She asked if we thought about doing the podcast on Spotify, which obviously we've touched on before. So hopefully we answered the question for you already, Mel. And she liked the now back to the studio bit after the news. She wants to hear this battle. And she said, hashtag Team Mom.
Yeah.
So again, so she's on your side for the quiz. So yeah,
It's really
come on,
not looking good for you, man.
where is the love for me? You know, come on, it's my channel.
You may as well just submit now, Dom. You've lost.
I never give up. I never surrender.
That's a harsh but fair comment.
If you do say so.
And the only other thing she said was that she stopped watching Fear the Walking Dead after the second season. And I did ask her how come and would she ever pick it back up, but she hasn't actually responded to that. So, and then outside of that, we also got a little, just like a first. So congratulations to Azuru Plays. Sorry. So yeah, Emma, you made it here first. Congratulations. You win the first to the podcast competition. But yeah, thank you for bringing our attention to the fact that you were first.
We're proud of you, Emma.
Yeah, we're proud of you. So I think that's all the comments, isn't it, Mum? Is that all of them? Is that everything?
We haven't had anything from Skippy this week.
Oh, that's right. We haven't had anything from Skippy. So
the one from my couch.
Yeah, as you're here, Skippy, anything you'd like to add about last week's podcast?
Well, about the podcast in general was another good episode, I might add. But my question doesn't really revolve around the podcast, more of just a controversial question for you two.
Okay.
Okay, I'll lay it on you guys. Here we go.
Ahead.
What popular film or TV series that people love do you hate? I can always go first to sort of break the ice on this one.
Yeah. Will, you
on.
go first. I've already got something in my head, so it'll give Mum a little bit of a chance to have a think.
All right.
Well,
I don't know if she's going to be able to think after I tell her what my hate is.
Yeah, yeah. Please don't fall out with my guest, Mum. Please don't fall out with my guest.
Go for it.
All right. Well, the one that everybody loves and I hate, it has to be the first Star Trek series. I can't stand it.
Well,
There's
the
just
original
something.
Star Trek.
Yes, there's just something about it. I've tried watching episodes, and it's just bad. It is so bad.
But it's
I
so
can't-
bad. That's what makes it so funny. If it's so bad.
I look at Star Trek because I grew up watching Next Generation. I love that, and yeah, that was a bit campy, but the episode still engrossed me, and there was something about it that just kept me going back. There was story, but with the first one, all I do was laugh. I'm just like, oh well, I'm done with this now. That there's nothing for me to watch. I don't know why people like this.
Well, my answer to that question is the Star Trek, the original Star Trek, is very like the modern Orville. The Orville has
Yeah.
sort of almost taken the mick out of the original Star Trek in the way it's so cheesy and so colourful and so. I still watch it though.
And look, I understand that. I'll give it to you. I can see how people enjoy it. I just personally can't.
Youth of today, you see, youth of today. I've got no class.
See,
I'm just going to go now.
Oh no! Don't go yet. Go on then, Dom. Your turn.
I had the feeling that was how that conversation was going to go. But I mean, I'm with Skippy on this one in that I can see the merits of the original show, and obviously without the original, we wouldn't have anything else that came afterwards. I quite enjoyed the films. The Trouble with Tribbles episode is a really good one, and there's a couple of episodes here and there in the original series that do stand out as as sort of classics and things like that. But by comparison, yeah, I mean, I would pick Next Generation over the original series because I mean, like William Shatner. I mean, come on. William Shatner's a bad actor.
There's no redeeming factor.
Nowadays.
The guy is just so wooden, it's just in comparison to Patrick Stewart, who is a Shakespearean, theatrically trained actor, and the gravitas and the commanding presence and everything that he brings to that role. And then you just look at Shatner, and all Shatner wanted to do was go around shagging everything.
Exactly. The human race makes it to space, and he wants to have sex with everything.
Yeah, stilted dialogue, stilted sort of like, I will go to this planet, and also let's have sex with every alien that we encounter. That was his way of like sort of saying welcome to the human race. Now
spread them.
Yeah. So yeah, I would agree that like, although original series has its place, and it, we owe the original series for everything that came afterwards, but it's not. I agree with Skippy. I agree with Skippy.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, my thing that I don't like compared to the original is the new Star Wars stuff.
Oh no. No.
Give me the original Star Wars, not this prequel, sequel, blah blah blah. The rubbish. Rubbish.
Okay. Look, I'll give you that. Like, nothing can compare to the first three films. It's by far the best movies you'll ever watch. It's space opera. It's a great story, and yeah, it's one of the first films of its kind. And I think a lot of the problem we have these days with that is that people keep trying to compare the newest films to them, and it just won't work. There's no way you can.
I mean, I have got this thing, haven't I, Dom, that I hate it when they try and remake something. Like Battlestar Galactica that came back. Didn't like that. Like the original.
That was awesome. The Battlestar Galactica remake was far superior to the original.
Yeah, I'm with Geek Mum on this one.
Really?
Original's better. Yep.
Yeah, there's certain old school stuff that should never be touched. I think.
Unless it's Star Trek.
Yeah. I mean, I've got mixed feelings about the prequels. The prequels were okay. Obviously, they tell a story in its entirety. I mean, what's again? It's like talking about the original series of Star Trek. It's like the prequel films. They tell a necessary story. They set up the beginnings of everything, how Darth Vader came into being, all of that kind of stuff that was alluded to in the other films, but we never got to see. So they got to flesh that out a little bit.
Yeah.
the very first one is not the greatest film. I think Attack of the Clones was better. So Phantom Menace, I'm not massive fan of. Attack of the Clones is better, and then obviously Revenge of the Sith is when it gets good. That's when it's on par with the other three.
You've got it backwards. First one's fine. Second one's horrible till it gets to the end, and then the third one the third one's the only one I agree with you that is actually really good because it is a great lead up to New Hope.
Yeah.
As far as the sequels are concerned, I mean that's a whole other can of worms to get into, especially after how much it divided the fan base when The Last Jedi came out.
Yeah. See, I was one of the people that actually liked that film. I thought it was great.
You know what? You and me are on the same page there because I really enjoyed. And the thing is, so Kevin Smith, who I talk about quite frequently on this podcast.
Yes.
I'd love it one day if he is aware of the fact that I talk about him and he sends me a message or something like that, because the guy's
maybe
awesome.
One day.
So Kevin Smith, when Last Jedi came out, he could see the criticism, he could see why people didn't like it, he could see this, that, and the other, but he could also see the other side of it. And he was saying, looking at it from the perspective of being a parent, and he was like, the original Star Trek, oh my God, the original Star Wars movies, that's going back to the previous conversation. The original Star Wars movies were they were what he grew up with. That was his life, that was his childhood.
Yeah.
And then he said, but now it's I need to try and enjoy these films for what they are and not always look back to what used to be, because as much as these films, they're putting in the nostalgia, they're putting in the throwbacks, by bringing back legacy characters and things like that. But ultimately, they are making these films for the next generation of Star Wars fans.
But that was the great thing about the second one, dude. They made the move to sort of kill off all those original characters and bring in these new ones. Yeah. And I found that so damn refreshing that the fan service is going to one side and they're creating an original story. I think that's the only way you can make a good Star Wars film, is try and separate yourself from what it was and make something new.
Yeah.
It's you look at the first one, and that one is it's a rehash of New Hope. It pretty much scene for scene. It is a rehash. It's a good film, don't get me wrong. I have a thing against J.J. Abrams because I always think he just makes good films. He never makes anything amazing. But that film is just, it's a rehash. And I didn't mind that. It was great. But the second one for me was just amazing because it's all that stuff is going now and he's doing something different.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's ways of doing it, though. I mean, I feel that Rian Johnson was, or Ryan Johnson, however you're supposed to say his name, he was a bit heavy-handed with what he did. I think that he basically came in and went, oh, yeah, this is what JJ set up. Let's just rip all that up and I'm going to go in a completely different direction. And I think that's what it made it feel disjointed between the two films, and the weird change in direction, the weird change of ideas. I wasn't keen on that, and as was, a lot of the fan base were the same.
Yeah.
I disagree with you on the JJ thing in that, I'm a fan of JJ Abrams. Me and Mum both are, because things like, Fringe, the newer Star Trek movies they did, the first couple at least, were fairly decent. A few of the other projects he's worked on, Bad Robot in general, it's when you see the Bad Robot thing at the end and we lost and things like that, it's we've quite supported JJ Abrams for quite some time. So I'm the flip side.
Here I come smashing the wall down.
Yeah. But I'm on the flip side where I'm JJ's back for the final part of this story. Thank you. Well, now we can get back on track to what it was meant to be. We can undo some of the stupid decisions that were made in The Last Jedi, and we can get this story back on track and tell the story how it was meant to be told,
Yeah, my
Return of the Jedi is the best film.
Oh, yeah. Yes, thank you, Geek Mom. Thank you. I agree that it's by far the best film. I hated the fact when they redid it and they added in Darth Vader's note. That ruined it for me. It's don't do that.
Yes.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Carry on what you were saying. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I think that, we've made our point. We'd just be waffling on for a while otherwise. My answer to the question, my answer is Twin Peaks. So the show that hugely popular in the 90s, still has a massive fan base nowadays. It's a cult TV show. it's referenced and it's parodied and it's, you know, brought up in other things as the years have gone by. Obviously, they rejuvenated it a few years ago when they brought back some other stuff and they did like movie and things like that. I've just never got it. It's just never done it. It's just never done it for me. As popular as it is, and as much of a cult sort of weird geek TV show as it is, for me, it's just never floated my boat. It's not my cup of tea at all.
I understand where you're coming with that too. I mean, like I think I said to you before, like it was a case of when I watched it when I was younger, I didn't get it and I didn't like it. But I remember watching it in my mid-20s and being like, wow, this is actually really good. Like, I get this now.
Yeah, it was better late the second when they revamped it, I think.
Oh yeah, when they re-released it for like a new season, it was actually really good.
Yeah, I was quite hooked on that. I never watched the original, like the first one they brought out years ago. But when that came, I thought, let's have a go. Have a look at this. I thought that's quite good, actually.
Yeah, you should go back and watch the first one. It's really awesome, especially for the time it was made. It was very different. You know, that was a time of like X-Files was around and that sort of stuff was peak. And that was just something different from X-Files.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like obviously in that time period, I was more X-Files, and I got my weird fix of like, you know, strangeness and supernatural stuff and everything at that time from American Gothic.
Oh yeah.
I love
that was
American Gothic was a brilliant program. You know, it was so good. Gary Cole as the sort of insane, you know, devilish sort of sheriff, and the little boy that was sort of torn between him and his angelic sister, you know, and all of the sort of weird supernatural stuff that was going on there. And it's quite funny as well, the fact that the first word in that show is American, and then she grew up, that little girl, Merle from American Gothic, grew up and went on to be in every single season of American Horror Story. Which is quite funny. It's like, you know, what did they just, you know, was that when it came to casting, they went, no, we need somebody that, you know, could be in this show. And they were like, oh, what about, you know, I've forgotten what the actress's name now. I can't remember what she's called, but like, you know, they were like, well, she was in a show called American Gothic, and our show's called American Horror Story. So
was she in American Gods?
Let's no, she wasn't in American Gods. No,
give it time. She might be there.
But, you know, they would just like bring her across, you know. So I don't know. Nice little way to segue into the news that I've got for this week, though, in relation to some of these topics we've just discussed. So if you want to talk about stuff from the 90s and places like that, and you want to talk about weird and supernatural and things, this news came out annoyingly the day after we recorded last week's podcast. And I was like, if only we'd recorded on our normal day, I would have been able to include it then. But we couldn't, so I have to include it today.
What is it? Come on then, don't keep us hanging.
23rd of October, season 2 of Castle Rock.
Oh, wow.
Whoa!
And not only is it going to have elements to do with The Shining in, as they teased at the end of the first season, but it's also been confirmed in the trailer they released, and all the trailer is just the logo, basically. It's some music and the logo comes up, and then underneath it says, Misery Comes to Town.
Ooh, nice.
And it's been confirmed we are going to see a younger version of Annie Wilkes, the psycho nurse from Misery, is going to be the focal point of the story in Castle Rock Season 2.
Oh, wow.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
That's great.
That's cool.
That's very cool. I like that program.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. No word as to whether Bill Skarsgård is going to return in some way. I mean, I think they sort of ended the story with the kid sort of in that first season, but you never know. He might make an appearance, especially because, well, it depends when they filmed it, whether it overlapped with when they were making it part 2 or something. I don't know, but he might show up again. You never know. But I know there's a whole bunch of new characters, but I think there's also some returning characters too. But yeah, I thought, Shining and Misery together should be quite cool.
Oh,
That's going to be a good October, isn't it, Dom?
Yes.
For our podcast.
Because we also have...
Loving it.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be stacked. We've got the return of all of the Arrowverse shows and the big build-up to this year's Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, which apparently, the other day I read, Stephen Amell has now seen the whole script for the Crisis on Infinite Earths story, and his reaction to it was, holy shit. because he said it's going to, like, the impact of what they're doing in this storyline is going to be massive. So I'm like, wow, I can't wait.
Hey.
And off the back of that, now, interestingly, the news connected to that is that apparently we might be getting a Superman TV show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So with obviously the ending of Krypton, the scrapping of Lobo, those things are ending. But out of the ashes, the CW, the Arrowverse, might seem to be launching a show called Metropolis, which is going to have Tyler, I can never say his surname, Tyler Hoechlin, the guy that plays Superman in the Arrowverse at the moment, is going to be the main character. And it's going to be obviously connected to Supergirl. There's going to be some sort of crossover there with Supergirl and things like that. But yeah, it looks like they're doing, for the first time since Smallville, they're doing a Superman TV show.
Anything's going to be better than Smallville.
You can't. Let's not go down that rabbit hole.
I'm not. That's my opinion.
So yeah, so that's potentially on the horizon. The other superhero related thing is today. Yes, it is the 6th. So when we're recording this, it's the 6th. Obviously, you guys are listening to this from the 8th onwards, but on the 6th, the new season of Titans starts on the DC Universe app in the States. No word yet as to when it's going to come to international territories, but if it's anything like the first season, I imagine it will probably hit Netflix around early December time, because that's roughly how it worked last time. It launched on the DC Universe app last year, and then around just going into December, it then all came on Netflix. So I reckon the same pattern will apply. So for those of us outside of the United States, we've still got a little bit of a wait unless we find
another source.
Other sources. But if you're not going to do that, then yeah, it's potentially going to be on Netflix come December. So just to make people aware, maybe those of you in the US that are listening to this podcast and didn't know that, then that's when Titan season 2 is currently underway for you to watch.
That's one to look forward to as well.
Yeah,
that was a really good series.
It was a really good series, and I'm looking forward to season 2. They're bringing in a whole new host of characters. Obviously, you've got the continuation of plot threads they set up in the first season, and we have got Ian Glenn, Jorah Mormont.
Ian Glenn,
the guy that was the bad guy in what was it called, Mum? What was the Skippy? Do you know? I can't remember what it's called now. Something Man, the Aussie thing that was about the Aboriginal, the hairy guys.
Clever
Man, that's it.
Clever Man, yeah.
Obviously, he was in that too, and yeah, he's going to be playing Bruce Wayne.
Ooh.
So yeah, we're going to actually get Batman properly, not just in weird dream sequency moments and stuff. We're going to get actual Bruce Wayne. I don't know if he's going to suit up and be Batman in the series, but he's definitely going to be there as Bruce Wayne. So that's going to be quite.
Either way, it's going to be good.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. That's going to be cool. We've got like Aqualad, and obviously you've got the Superboy. Connor Kent was shown at the end of the last season and stuff like that. So we've got all that stuff to look forward to. And Deathstroke is going to be in it as well. So I'm looking forward to Deathstroke. That should be cool.
Oh, but he was always going to be coming. The way that series has been tailored, it is perfect for Deathstroke.
Yeah, definitely. It seems as well that the Titan show is not going to be anyhow connected to the Arrowverse crossover, even though they're pulling in from every DC source. One that they don't seem to be pulling from is Titans. But there are rumors that they might be pulling in something to do with Gotham. So we may get a little bit of a Gotham mention, or they may briefly visit the Earth of Gotham or something like that, because there was a panel just the other week and the cast of Gotham gave some very kind of vague, cryptic sort of answers. So it's quite possible that they're going to feature somehow in this Arrowverse crossover as well. So that'd be pretty cool. So yes, I think that's it. The only other bit of news I've got is in relation to Star Wars stuff, and it's that obviously the Obi-Wan series. Now, I know we mentioned this previously, but Skippy, you had said something to me about that, and I just wanted, while I had you on, to just sort of say, how hyped are you for Ewan McGregor returning in the role of Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Extremely hyped because I've read the book as well that they released a while back, and I tell you, man, I cannot wait. If they're going to do the book in its entirety, it is going to be such a great series. It is going to be awesome.
And the fact that it's weird, it's going to fill in so many blanks because it's going to take place 8 years after Revenge of the Sith, and it's going to tell that story of what was he up to in those years between before we see him show up as Alec Guinness in what was episode 1 back then, but like A New Hope, Star Wars. And we're hopefully going to find out why he changed, like he went under the name of Ben and stuff like that. And what's interesting, right, Skippy, that this is probably more interesting to you than it is to my mum, is that it's going to dovetail with the timeline of Solo, which has led a lot of talk to say we might see Darth Maul show up.
No, that's going to be they might be breaking from the book a bit then, but that's going to be awesome, dude. That would be that's the dream match. Everybody wants to see Maul go up against Ben Kenobi again.
Yes,
like I mean, if you've seen like the Rebels series and Clone Wars, you would know a lot of the story in between that as well. So whether they stick with because I'm pretty sure that's now canon.
Yeah,
like, that's considered part of the Star Wars universe. So yeah, that would be really cool to see what they do with that.
Because that's also, the thing that cemented it as canon was obviously in Solo when they obviously revealed the return of Maul, and the
best part of Solo,
the organization, obviously the organization that he's the head of.
The Black Sun, I think it was called.
And it was all connected to, and that's all connected to Clone Wars and Rebels and things like that. And it's like, so that's all been tied in now to say the animated shows. I mean, they've already done other things with the animated shows to bring them in, like, being General Thrawn being brought into live action and stuff like that. And what's his name? Forrest Whitaker.
Oh, no,
Forrest Whitaker's character in Rogue One. Forrest Whitaker's character was also from the Clone Wars series, and then they obviously brought him into live action in Rogue One. So
the name is escaping me.
Yeah, God, I can't think of what it is at the moment either. So somebody's probably going to jump in the comments and say it. So
please do. I feel like such an idiot.
Yeah.
Right now. Oh, Sol Guerrera.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's it. I know I'd get it eventually.
Yeah. Not to be confused with Che Guevara or Eddie Guerrero.
Or Eddie Guerrero. It's funny because on my wall I've got a signed picture of Eddie Guerrero, and I looked at it, I was like, Sol Guerrero.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so yeah, that's the Star Wars news. And the other thing with Star Trek news is that this weekend there's a panel, and that panel is going to feature Picard and also the next season of Star Trek Discovery. So we should get an idea of what their plans are for the next season of Discovery now that they've like jumped into the future effectively. So
can't wait for that.
But it's interesting the two panels are happening side by side. So it makes you wonder, given the fact that Picard is set further along now in the Star Trek timeline, it's like, is this by design? Is this that maybe Discovery and Picard are going to dovetail with each other somehow? Or is it just the fact that they're both Star Trek shows that are both coming out at the similar times, and they just thought we'll save on money and stuff by just having them both at the same convention?
So you think they're going for the cheap effect?
Yeah.
But we've always said Star Trek had worse special effects than the Orville, so.
Yes, the Orville.
That new Star Trek series is really good. I mean, it's probably one of the best ones I've watched.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I love it.
So it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of that panel across the weekend, and hopefully we'll have some more stuff to discuss in relation to that as of next week's podcast. So that's it, guys. That's all the comments and that's all the news.
Indeed.
So that's going to leave us now to move on and actually do the review. So this is the point in the show.
But before we do, when is the next episode of XCOM 2 coming on?
Oh, I actually got done with that today. I recorded all the footage. I just got to cut it up, do my intros and all that sort of thing. So hopefully within the next 2 weeks, we'll have that. Yeah.
Excellent.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, we'll see how we go with that one.
So, have you got anything else going on that you would like to plug, Skippy?
No, not really. I mean, just the channel, dude. That's predominantly where I do most of my stuff. That's where it all is. And if you need updates from what I'm doing, you can go to my Twitter as well. You know,
And what are they? Tell people where they can find you, what your socials are.
Okay, well, my social on YouTube is youtube.com/Whoisskippy because I finally got that sweet 100 subs mark and I can do my custom URL. And on Twitter, you can follow me at Whoisskippy.
And obviously, I'll link them down in the description box as well. So be sure to go and support Skippy and watch his videos and go and chat to him on Twitter as well because he's a great guy to chat to.
Oh, yes. I do appreciate the banter.
Yes. Absolutely.
I said to Dom, I've got to join Twitter now.
You got to now. You're the popular one, Geek Mom. You have to be there. He needs you.
I have people I can talk to, so I can get on there.
That's right.
Yeah, you have to get on Twitter and then you can jump aboard Skippy's banter bus.
Yeah.
Oh wait!
It's a slow bus, but we get there.
Well, we could keep it more. We could keep it more regional for you, and it would be a banter ute.
I'm surprised you actually know that. I say that to some people and they give me a strange look, like, what are you talking about?
You remember, I mean, like, obviously our two countries are very closely connected, and like we get all of your, all of the like Aussie TV shows and things like that. So a lot of Aussie lingo is in the UK sort of, in the UK consciousness. So, a lot of stuff that you guys come out with,
true.
We're very, very aware of.
Australia makes some amazing programs. I watched a load of crime series from Australia.
Or like Underbelly and stuff like that.
Underbelly's really good.
No, I've never watched that.
Oh, you should watch that one, Mum, because that's based around like true story stuff as well. That's very, very good.
If it's an Australian-made film, or a series, I go, watch this. Always good. I watch Harrow at the moment.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I like that. Even though he's a Welsh guy, isn't he? In Australia.
Yeah. Pretty much.
but I like that. So I will Australian.
Throw my 2 cents into this conversation and say, Cleverman's awesome, but for me, the best, although it wasn't fully Aussie made, but it was very heavily connected with the Australian film companies and the Australian television division and stuff, which was Farscape.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Love Farscape.
Yes.
Farscape,
you're talking a classic there, dude.
Yeah, one of the best sort of sci-fi fantasy shows to come up out of Australia was Farscape.
Oh, damn right. It's still one of the best shows. It would never leave the top 5 best shows out of Australia.
That's it. That TV show, Claudia Black and Ben Browder went on to bigger and better things off the back of being a part of that show.
But a lot of them even went to like movies like Pitch Black and even that new Stargate series as well. A lot of them made a new appearance in that.
Well, yeah, both Claudia Black and Ben Browder both turned up in Stargate like further on down the line because he took over, didn't he? Ben Browder took over from Captain Jack O'Neill and became the new leader of the team and stuff. So
that's right.
It opened up a lot of doors although we haven't seen a great deal from any of them recently, but at a certain point in time, they were quite hot commodities turning up here, there, and everywhere. But
I just so love the fact that you like all the programs we like. We've always watched. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a geek, you know this.
No, but I mean, considering obviously a lot of stuff I watched, Dom watched because I watched it. And then he's introduced me to stuff newer stuff. But like to hear somebody else that sort of actually watched the like past programs and stuff, like films and that, it's like, yay!
You gotta remember, I grew up with a mum. Like I share old films with her. I still love old classic films. I've always been a thing between me and my mum is that we just watched that stuff when I was a kid. And the same as I have an older brother and sister. So all this stuff is just it's like my love of Star Wars comes from watching it with my older brother. It's a memory for me, and I enjoy it, and it's always going to be a part of my life. So I'm always going to be into geek culture because it's been such a big part of my life.
Yeah, and me.
and that is precisely
and that was passed down from my dad.
Yeah,
it's just one big geek cycle.
Hey Dom, did you know they brought a new series of Tales of the Unexpected out?
I was not aware of this. No.
Yes.
Nice.
I've yet to watch the new Twilight Zone, to be honest.
There's a new Twilight Zone?
New Twilight Zone. They need to bring Outer Limits back.
They need to bring Tales from the Crypt back. I love that.
Oh, Tales of the Crypt! That's awesome. I love that program.
With the Crypt Master.
I've got a real thing for horror, like especially like B-grade schlocky horror. That's my favorite. I love that stuff.
Did you like the Hammer horror films?
Oh yes, we're talking old there.
Yeah, classic health.
Oh
cool.
Yes.
Well, and that was why precisely the reason that you were the perfect fit to have on as our first guest, Skippy.
So you now adopted to the geekdom.
Yeah, he's been a part of this geekdom for a long time now.
From day one.
You know, not only was it because, you know, of you being such a huge supporter and, you know, a good friend, but also because, you know, just like I said, your love of this, of this world, of this geek culture and everything like that. It was just, you were the perfect person to have on for this benchmark episode.
Yeah, definitely.
I really appreciate it. I do. I mean, I want to say this now, since we discussed, you know, naming your guests as guest doms. I want to have my title as guest dom number 1, and that's just how it will always be, no matter who comes on and who, if they are better than me. That's my title.
So guest dom number 1
better than you.
is always going to be Skippy, right? That's
right.
No problem.
I'll beat the Skippy.
I'm not shallow at all.
Oh dear. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Skippy. We're going to let you get off and go and have your dinner now. And
yes, I am hungry.
Probably have to avoid the wrath of your wife for keeping her waiting for so long.
It's all right. I'm used to that.
But thank you so much for coming on. It's been great. Obviously, I know, you know, we've got the different time zones and stuff, so I appreciate you using some of your evening to spend it with us recording this. Hopefully everybody's enjoyed it. A bit more of a, you know, a different insight into you as a person away from, you know, the Twitter banter and the gaming videos. They've sort of seen another sort of facet of your character and stuff like that.
The kinder, gentler Skippy, you might say.
Yes, the softer side. The side of you that I know.
It's probably the most recording I've done without swearing. So.
Well, yeah, well done.
Hey, did well.
You can go and treat yourself to a binge of swearing now and a couple of beers.
That's right. That's what I'll do. I'll just go at the back and start spraying my head off.
Let's not swear at the dingoes.
Well, I really appreciate you guys having me. Like, it's actually been an absolute blast being on here. And like I said, I've been a big fan. So yeah, this is amazing. Thank you.
Oh, very welcome.
Yeah, it's been our pleasure as well. And, you know, thank you again. And keep your eyes peeled or your ears open, people, going forward for the segment that we're hopefully going to introduce with having Skippy on as a regular part of this show.
Yay.
We'll see what we can make happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is possible.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, you take it.
It's been a pleasure speaking to you, so you take care.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I'll definitely be listening back, and I'll listen to the next episode too, and the one after that, and the one after that, and it will keep going till the day I die.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Skippy. You take it easy, mate.
No worries. You too. Catches.
Bye.
Right. Okay. Well, now that Skippy has left us, we are going to proceed and get on with the actual meat of the podcast and our reviews. And we're going to start with this week's episode of Fear the Walking Dead, which was titled Ner Tamid. And I will say, before we get into actually talking about the episode, so Fear the Walking Dead introduced their own version of Father Gabriel, basically.
Well, you got there before me.
Were you going to say the same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that'll become a bit more obvious.
Apparent as we talk about it.
Yeah, the link between the two characters will become a bit more obvious as we proceed. But yeah, I just wanted to say that from the outset. So this week's episode, I thought it was good. It was interesting, but it very much felt like a side story.
Yeah.
We didn't get much to do with the main ongoing plot or the main characters. I mean, the episode was mostly split between this new character, Rabbi Jacob Kessler, and his interaction with some of the cast, and then just the odd little flip back to the rest of the group.
Caravan's worth, yeah.
Yeah. So let's get into it.
I thought it was easy to watch. Yeah, so basically it started obviously with a rabbi, obviously doing some sort of religious ritual within his synagogue. And you could hear somebody like banging on the door, and he was going, "Don't, I'm not letting you in, I'm not letting you in." And then he decided, got annoyed, got his gun, went outside, killed a walker that was near the door, and then there was quite a few of them, and he was trying to hack his way through them. And then suddenly his car door opened and shut. I was like, "Ooh, what happened there?"
Yeah.
His car door opened, and knocked a walker flying, and then the little girl Charlie was in it. I was thinking, huh? What's she doing there on her own?
Well, yeah, because she saved him because he got knocked down, didn't he? And the walker was still alive, and it was like, oh no.
No, but it was that why was she there on her own?
Yeah.
That's why I was like, what's she doing on her own? So we had that bit, and then we did have a little snippet. We had the caravan of cars and lorries going along, and there was roadkill zombie, which I thought was hilarious.
Oh, that was disgusting.
And then they stopped, and Sarah in a big truck dropped a welcome home mat on the floor. Then she got out of the truck. I thought, that's so funny.
Yeah, I liked how efficient it is, the setting up, because that was the first time we got to see how they set up their little encampment.
Yeah,
and it was
they made a
cool.
protective circle, hadn't they, with the trucks?
Yeah, and then they got all of
apparently
the.
They got the campfire going, didn't they? What they do, like, made a camp, but it was all protected by the lorries. And then they realised the girl was missing. Somebody said, "I've done a head count."
It was Dwight.
And somebody's missing. Yeah, he said that somebody's missing. And obviously they don't just realise she'd gone missing. So anyway, there was a nice little story with the rabbi and Charlie. Like, she wanted to find somewhere to belong. She's so young, isn't she?
Yeah.
And she'd had enough of being on the road and all the killing. And then the rabbi was he had the light that he kept going all the time. And he said, as long as that's lit, I'm happy. And then his battery died. She goes, don't worry, I have friends. And then she got on the radio, and I thought, she's compromised their location. That's what I thought at the time.
Yeah, I mean, the light obviously was the temple light, which was the name of the episode, Ner Tamid, which is basically like an eternal flame that must never go out because that light represents God.
Yeah, like they do in churches, don't they? They have
he said to her that maybe God had led her here because she needed something, and that got her thinking about, like, yeah, maybe God did. Maybe I was meant to find this place and things like that. And then, as you said, because the light kept flickering and he said it could never go out, I have to keep it lit. And he was stressing out because he didn't have enough, like he was running out of car batteries and this, that, and the other. And she said, well, I could probably help with that. I can radio my group. And he was like, you have a group? And she was like, yeah, there's quite a lot of us. And she said, I can speak to them. And then obviously it cut away from that to like a few moments later. And she was sitting in one of the pews, and she was radioing them and telling them like where she was and what she needed. And they were glad to hear she was alive. And that was sort of that, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, but then when she'd done that, she was saying, they'll come and help you. And there was noise outside again. And he said, you stay here, I'll go and sort it out.
Yeah.
And there we go out. And there was a building. And it had it looked like a cat flap thing in it.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a walker coming out of it, and it was a woman, he pulled her out, he stabbed her, and then he tried to block it out again, and then we looked, and he was looking in the window. I thought, that's what I said about the thing, about all his congregation were locked away and were getting out. Obviously, that was where the noise, and I went, that sounds like Gabriel off of Walking Dead. That's what he did.
Yeah, I mean, they tweaked the story a little bit. It wasn't exactly like for like, but the themes,
similar.
Yeah, the themes were very, very similar. And because he previously said to Charlie that it was there was a gap in the fence or something, and then we got the reveal of like, no, it's not a gap in the fence at all. He's got them all locked up, and occasionally some get out. So it was a bit like, I started thinking, should we be suspicious of this guy? Or is it just another Gabriel thing where he's like a coward and all of this stuff? So then we cut forward to John and June turned up in the van, and they're there to help, and they provide the batteries and stuff. And they're like, right, we got that all sorted. And then Charlie tells them about the fence issue, and they're like, oh, okay, that's something we can sort out. And he's a bit like on edge, and they're like, don't worry, we got this. And so they go off. That leaves
June went outside. June went outside with Charlie, which left John and the rabbi.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
And he offered him a sweet, John and his sweeties.
He said, "Yeah, I've got something
then,
for you," and then he said, "I've got something for you as well."
oh no!
And he gave him the
They
little
gave him
like
a
skull
rabbi
cap,
hat.
didn't he? Yeah. He
Mm.
put it on. He said, "How do I look?" And then he said, "What did he say? Goyish, kind of like the Pope."
And then he put his cowboy hat on top of it.
I know. And then it was really awkward because the pair of them didn't really know what to say to each other. They were just kind of like, right, so we just kind of wait then, sort of thing.
And the little girl was outside saying to June,
June.
saying, "Look, this is we can make camp here, and this is amazing." And it's like she was trying to talk her down, saying, "No, this isn't where we want to stay. This isn't it." And she goes, "I'm sick of doing the road thing. Sick of all the killing." And she goes, "Yeah, but we'll get better. We'll find somewhere." And it's like stuff like that. And then we went back to the road. The other guy, the caravan of cars,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a nice little bit with Dwight having a beer, liking the beer.
Yeah.
That, what is his name made? What was his name? Jacko, not Jacko.
Oh no,
The
yeah,
guy,
the guy that died. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, the one that died. So there was a nice little bit with him and Sarah having a chat, sat on the truck.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of banter.
It was a bit flirting, I felt as well.
Yeah,
It was a little
definitely.
bit flirty sort of conversation between the two of them. I was like, oh yeah.
And then that's when they realised Logan had spotted them, isn't it? And they said, "Right, we got to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, Charlie's call, obviously alerted them.
And they packed up everything really quickly, left all their tents behind and stuff. And then she got on the radio to John and June, and she was like, "What'd she call it? The SWATty. We need the SWATty because we've been found.
Yeah.
We need you to get back here. We've got this. Logan's guys have found us. We've got to abandon the camp. We need the SWATty to help us." That sort of interrupted the argument that her and Charlie had been having about whether or not they should stay there. So it was like,
yeah,
okay.
and then something happened, didn't it? The fence or something got broken while they were outside talking about it.
Yeah.
Something happened, and they started coming in. So they sort of like, "Oh, great, we're stuck in the synagogue."
Mm-hmm. And that's when he told them the story about what happened, wasn't it?
He said that he had left them, hadn't he? He'd gone away, and when he got back, something had happened, and they'd all turned, and so
Yeah.
He said, "I just do it because it's something I do, and it's no home for you. You don't want to be living here," and all this stuff. And anyway, so they went up to the highest part of the synagogue to look out, and so like John was going, "Right, I got an idea." So he got the ladder off the fire escape, wasn't it?
Oh, this was cool.
That was So basically, the plan was to go ladder to ladder over the cars to get to the SWAT van.
Yeah.
So they're on the top of the building. The rabbi and Charlie are watching. Oh my days, that was so scary.
I mean, there were so many moments where you were just like, somebody's going to fall, somebody's going to get grabbed.
I kept thinking someone's going to die in this episode.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what, obviously, the picture I got is what you're looking at, is that precarious, them trying to get across from car to car using this ladder. And there was just so many heart-stopping moments. That whole scene was really, really good.
And yeah, if you watch, obviously, if there is a talking dead, he'll explain how they probably had to do that scene. And it was really exciting. And then just like, it got so far, like, yeah, they're getting there, nearly there. And then that the ladder broke, didn't it?
Yes.
And they were stuck on top of a car.
Mm-hmm. And they were surrounded on all sides. And meanwhile, you had on the roof, they kept going back to the roof with the rabbi and with Charlie talking about the situation. And she was saying about like having to shoot them. And he was like, he couldn't do that. He's like, I can't, not with bullets. I can't do that. And they were like,
because I've got an idea. She goes, I've got an idea, because obviously, June shouted something to her, like, we have to do it like we used to do it.
Yeah.
Because obviously that's what remember when she met Daniel, she said the way she did it was draw them away with noise.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes, I got an idea, and then they disappeared, and then he had this sort of horn thing. There must be something to do with their...
It's like a call to prayer thing,
Yeah. So he started blowing on the horn to pull them, they started moving away from the cars.
Yeah.
Which enabled them to get... No, actually, it enabled them to get off the car, because they could have just got in the SWAT car, didn't they?
Yeah,
obviously,
because
then they had to make sure...
all of the walkers started going towards the temple because they were following the noise, and they were all traipsing in, and Charlie and the rabbi got up to the top floor. In around that moment, that was when he also revealed the truth and said, I didn't leave because I went to get supplies. I left because after seeing the dead rising and all of that was going on in the world, I basically lost all my faith in God and didn't feel I could stay here and lead these people. But eventually he felt guilt, and that's why he came back. But he was like, look what's happened. Yeah. And he's like, that's why you don't want to stay here. This isn't a good place. Yeah. This isn't a place for you people to set up camp. and all of this stuff. So then Charlie had that. She was gutted because she really bought into this whole idea that maybe God had led her there and stuff. But then she was like, okay, I understand. And they went up onto the top floor of the synagogue, and then the light got put out.
Yeah, because obviously all the zombies had gone in and they smashed the light. And then I was going, so John and June ran across once they were all in and boarded the door up. I was thinking, how are those two getting out of there then?
Yeah.
Because how did they get out?
I know, we never saw, because all we saw was they were up there, and then his watch went off, and she looked at him, and he went, Hashem calls, and he went off, and she followed him. And the next thing, they were out
like a suitcase or so, didn't he?
Yeah, and then they were outside, and he had his big scroll and things like that. And it's like, did they climb out? Maybe they just climbed out of a window and just got down from climbed down from the outside or something. But
yeah, because next thing they were on the ground, and all we did is saw them scuttle around.
Yeah.
Like, okay. So then we went back to the caravans, and they were driving away, trying to get away from Logan's lot.
Yeah.
They were catching them up, weren't they? And then the big truck stopped because the oil had run out.
Yeah, and he said about the gas, and he said about, can you not, we're driving a petrol tanker, and we've run out of gas. It's ironic. And she's like, yeah, but we can't siphon the gas in from the tanker into it doesn't work that way. We're carrying the fuel, but we can't use the fuel to refuel us unless we actually got out and hooked it up. It's like, it doesn't quite work.
She was like, no, and she was determined, right, we're going to fight to death. So I'm not going out. I'm going out fighting. So her and Dwight got, as they were just about to get out of the car, Logan, I think it was Logan's.
No, it was the people. It turned out the people that were chasing them was the guy that Dwight let go the other week. The one that he let go
right. Yeah.
to start a new life. Obviously, he had decided not to, so it didn't work with him. And it was them. They surrounded them, pulled up alongside them, and you're thinking, uh-oh, and they're getting ready to make their last stand. And she's sort of talking as such, of like, oh, it was great, riding with you and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, they started taking off, and you're like, what? Yeah. Something spooked them. What is it? And then it was obviously the SWAT van arrived just in the nick of time to clear them out, and they all tore away and left them alone.
And then we found out the rabbi had gone with them, and Sarah and him had a good, because maybe she's obviously Jewish.
Well, yeah, we turned out she was, because what did she say? Because after that, it sort of skipped again to everything's calm after the storm sort of thing, and they're all chatting away, and June was sort of blaming herself for Charlie leaving, and that she was wrong about this whole keeping on the move, and maybe they should find a place to settle and stuff like that. And then you had Sarah talking to the rabbi and also to Dwight. And
yeah.
She said something. What did she? Oh, she asked him when. Oh God, I can't remember now what it's called. Jewish holiday, like a religious holiday. She asked when it was and how far away they were from it. And he said when it was. And then Dwight was like, wait, what? You're Jewish? And she said about her last name was like Rabinowitz or something like that. Yeah, it was Rabinowitz. And she said, basically, yeah, she's one of the chosen people. And then he asked her if she wanted to join him for prayers, and she was like, it's been a while, but yeah, sure. And then she said something about the beer, and he said, hey, I make my own wine, so nobody's judging here.
And the two of them went off, didn't they?
Yeah.
And then it left Dwight, and Dwight was like, he's really suspicious, thinking, right, so they just cornered us. It's only the SWAT guys, really, at the end of the day. What's frightened them off?
Yeah.
So he's thinking they're up to something. And then we found out what? We saw Logan in his lorry.
Yeah.
And he'd come to, and there's a big quarry. And the woman was going, this isn't the old fields. And he goes, yeah, but what was the guy called? The guy that died, his partner?
Polar bear.
Yeah, he said something like he's always been a bit cryptic. He said something like he's been cryptic in what he was saying. Basically, does that mean that this quarry is where the oil is?
Yeah.
And obviously then he said, and they just showed them driving towards it, wasn't it? Smashed through into the quarry.
Yeah.
Again, so they're looking for what were they? Where were they looking? They wouldn't think, because she said something like, we don't need stone, and because obviously quarries have stone and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a secret location of the oil, where the oil's being kept. And they'd obviously found that out from the videotapes.
Yeah, so she didn't understand what he meant, why they were there, and then he sort of said, he's very cryptic in his clues or something.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, they've got there first.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, not good. But it was, I think, like I say, it was split into parts, but there was more content in it.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely it was an exciting episode, but it was very much like I said, it was like a side story, a way to introduce this new character. Maybe them, subtly sort of talking about having faith and what faith means in the sort of post-apocalyptic world of The Walking Dead, and there were theme. It was very much a thematic sort of episode, I suppose.
And like a young child in that kind of situation, going, I just want to be safe and stay somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to keep doing all this traveling and killing and that.
Mm-hmm.
A bit like, cause obviously Alicia has been affected by that because she was young and that happened to her.
Yeah.
So you can see where it was coming from after last week's episode. It's natural, isn't it? You don't want to. Is that all our life's going to be? Just traveling and moving and moving.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was all in all, it wasn't a bad episode at all.
Mm-hmm. So there we go. So that was this week's episode of Fear the Walking Dead. So now we will move on to something else that was very exciting, and this was the penultimate episode of Stranger Things Season 3, so Episode 7, entitled The Bite.
So, we started at the fair.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of people having fun. The mayor was going to talk to the people because it was his fair.
Yeah.
And he said, it's time to set the fireworks off and all this stuff. And then we saw Mike's mum and dad and his little sister going on the big wheel. And they stopped at the top, and she's going, what are we doing this for? She goes, I paid him a bit extra because the fireworks are going to start so we can see him from here.
Yeah.
And they're sort of sitting there, and he's like looking like, I don't want to be on here.
Mm-hmm.
And then the little sister spotted something. She goes, what's that over there? And the mum's going, oh, it's the fireworks. But she could see the trees rustling, couldn't she?
Yeah.
So obviously the monster was working its way from wherever it was.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Then we went back to Elle, telling the guys what Billy had said to her about, I've made it for you, and now we're going to kill you all. And Will could feel the monster was there, was close.
Yeah, he got the tingle in the back of his neck, didn't he?
And then they saw it. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Size of it.
Mm.
It was. Do you want to carry on with the L bit for a minute, and then I'll go back to the dusting bit?
Yeah, we'll stick with this section, yeah.
Yeah. So then they decided they were boarding up the house, weren't they? So trying to stop it getting in.
And trying to find anything they could use as weaponry.
And they were all circular, looking outwards, weren't they? They were looking what we can, if it gets to us. And then it broke in, didn't it?
And it had all of these, like, tentacly things, didn't it?
Yeah, like a big tongue.
Yeah. So he had all these, like through the roof, but also through the sides. It was like shooting in through the windows and that, all these, like, tentacly things with mouths on them. Like,
it's horrible.
Like sharp teeth and things like that. And it was like, oh my God. And they were all trying to get out the way and trying to hit things. It got
Jonathan first, didn't it?
Yeah.
It chucked him across, and then it went for Nancy.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, it was just going to get Nancy again. But then all of a sudden, it stopped. Something was going on, and then we looked. Elle was holding it back.
And again, this is the picture I've got, which is an awesome moment of her using her powers to stretch her arms out and just hold off both sides, So you had these tentacly things coming from either side, and she's just stood in the middle, just sort of like, "You shall not pass," type thing, holding them at bay.
Really.
But then,
and then it grabbed her.
Well, the effort of it was getting too much for her, wasn't it? Because this thing, like you said, it was huge. It's very powerful. We've already seen through the course of this season that, like, she's just not quite strong enough to beat it this time. And that became evident in this because her attempts to hold it at bay eventually led to her losing there, and it grabbed her leg, didn't it? It like latched onto her.
She was literally hanging by the leg, wasn't she? And so Nancy got the old gun out, shooting away. She was, and then there was
that was
chopping at it.
No, wait, hold on. We got that a little bit wrong. She destroyed the tentacly things, but then there was the thing that came out of the mouth was what grabbed her, and then it was trying to drag her upwards into this huge teeth-filled mouth that was looming in through the roof. Yeah. So it was like literally trying to eat her, and that's when everybody rallied to try and pull her. They were trying to pull her, and they couldn't pull her like loose. And Nancy was like shooting it because they found there was a shotgun or something, wasn't there? And she was shooting it.
Yeah.
And then Lucas got, what did he have? Was it like an axe? Yeah. And he was chopping away at it to try and cut it loose. And they did eventually do it. It took some doing, but they did it.
Oh my gosh!
But the thing was still attached to her leg, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then when they pulled it off, her leg was
really bad.
Oh my God! It had really done a number on her leg. And then like the thing sort of retreated a little bit because it was in pain, but it was like, it's not going to be gone for long.
No, so they decided, like, pile in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And off they went. Well, back at the mall bit where Dustin and co were,
Yeah.
they'd obviously saved Steve and Robin, and they were hurtling along in this little cart, and they were still as high as a kite, those two. And they managed to get back in the lift, because they'd obviously swiped a card off one of those guards, because obviously they knew they had needed a swipe card, because we found that out in that other episode.
Yeah.
And then he's going, right, so where's your car situated? Where's your car situated? He went, and he's laughing. He's going, that's a problem. What's the problem? They took my car keys. And Justin was getting like, oh.
What was really
then
funny, the funniest thing I found about all of this sequence was the way that the two kids, Dustin and Erica, were effectively like the grown-ups in this scenario.
Yeah.
They were getting really frustrated with Robin and Steve, and they were really like, look, this isn't helping. We need to be serious. We need to concentrate. It was so funny just seeing that, the way that they
had to be really organised, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when the lift landed, they opened the door, they went to get out, and then the blimmin' soldiers were there.
Yeah.
It's like, chased back in, and then they finally managed, he knew a way through, so Dustin said, oh, right, I know what we can go, and they... Remember the first episode where they got the back way into the cinema?
Yes, so they
obviously came into play again. So they managed to get into the cinema, and then Back to the Future was playing.
Yay!
And he sat Robin and Steve at one end, and they said, "You stay there."
Mm-hmm.
And then they sat a bit further down where there were some more seats, and the two of them were chomping on popcorn, laughing and giggling
and not knowing what was going on. They're like, what's happening? And they're like, I really wanted to see this film, but I've got no idea what's going on in it. And they were like, oh, this, that, and the other. And the other two found seats at the very far end of the row. And they're like keeping an eye on them and saying, look, we need to lay low until, we know the danger's passed. But then he was trying to he wanted to try and get in contact with the others, didn't he?
Well, he was talking to Erica about. They started talking about the Lee Harvey Oswald thing, didn't they?
Yeah, about being
having an right old.
Yeah, the whole thing about the like where we shot in the theater and the whole thing with the second gunman and all these conspiracy theories and stuff like that.
So they were sat there, and then we went back to that afterwards. But then we saw Elle and the gang. They got to like a shop.
They went to a supermarket, didn't they?
Shop. Yeah, it's like a supermarket. It was like middle of nowhere, to fair.
Mm-hmm.
And her leg was really nasty.
Yeah.
And they were saying, we need a bowl, because the little girl Max had done skateboarding, isn't it? So she knows about injuries and stuff. And she goes, right, we need a bowl, we need to clean this, soap and that. So she sent them all looking for useful stuff. And there was it was Will and Lucas looking in the cereal aisle going, what else do you use a bowl for? Oh, that's so funny. It's like children.
But the other cool thing about it was Lucas and Mike found the fireworks display because of it being...
No, it's Lucas and Will.
Are you sure it was Will?
Yeah, because Mike was with Elle, sat with Elle.
Okay, well, they found this fireworks display because of it being like 4th of July celebrations and stuff, and they were like, oh, these could come in handy. And he was talking about how amazing certain fireworks were, and they're basically, when they explode, it's like something to do with the gunpowder, and it's like a bomb going off. And I was thinking at the time, straight off the bat, I said to Zoe, they could use these fireworks as weapons. I was like, So they obviously said, well, we could use these, so, and then it got poo-pooed, didn't it? Was it Max that poo-pooed it? And she was kind of like,
Max said, I sent you for a bowl. What are you doing playing with toys?
Yeah, why are you
fireworks?
Fireworks and all this lot? And they're like, but they could be useful. And she's like, really? Against that thing? And they're like, well, you never know.
And we had the sweet bit with the Elle and Mike.
Yeah.
Sitting there and lovey-dovey. And they were having a chat to each other, and then you could hear the radio, and Dustin was trying to radio them, but it was really distorted. So the first couple of times they ignored it totally, didn't they?
This bit was amazing as well, because when they did have this conversation, like you said, Dustin had left the main part of the movie theater and he'd gone out into like the hallway.
Erica was in charge looking after the other two, and he said, I'm going to go and try and get hold of the others.
Oh no, it wasn't the hallway, it was in the projector room. Yeah, that's right.
And the projector room,
trying to get hold of them, and it was coming through, but it was very distorted, very crackly. And what was great was that this was a parallel, because Back to the Future was playing. And you've got this parallel moment because there's the bit in the Back to the Future film where Marty is trying to contact Doc with the walkie-talkie, and it was almost like playing out the scene alongside the film that had clearly inspired this scene when they were writing it. And it was so cool. It was just like, this really weird homage to Back to the Future while Back to the Future is playing, and they're sort of playing out this like disjointed walkie-talkie conversation, which was, I just thought that was amazing. I was just like, that was so cool and so clever and so geeky and so nostalgic. I really, really enjoyed that little moment.
It was very good the way they did that.
Explain what was going on and try to get a hold of them, but ultimately it didn't work, did it? Because did the batteries die on the?
The batteries died in the batteries died in the walkie. So he went back into the cinema and said to Erica, "Have you got any batteries?" She goes, "Like, I carry batteries around with me."
Yeah.
And then he spotted that the other two had left the cinema.
Yes. And he said, "What are you? Where are they gone?" And she was like, "I don't know. I was watching." Did she say she was watching the film or something?
Yeah, she said about the film, and he go, "Where are they gone? Where are they gone?" And meanwhile, the other two had left the cinema, and they was drinking at the water fountain.
Yes.
And then they realized. Then Steve looked up at the sky and all the lights.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Oh, this is so cool."
Yeah.
And then they both started laughing and looking at it, and then they both went.
Yeah,
and
they both grew up.
Ran off to the toilet.
Adjoining toilet blocks.
Yeah. Yeah, so back in the store, Ella was doing her thing again, wasn't she? Because she was like listening to the fridge.
Yeah, did you notice what was behind her as well?
The waffles.
Eggos, the thing that she likes eating.
Yeah, the thing she likes, yeah.
I thought that was
She's
quite
sitting
funny.
there. She had the thing on her eyes, and she was doing that, and there's Lucas and the Coke conversation.
And it was just weird. It was like
about
an advert.
The new Coke. That's so funny. Yeah.
It reminded me of, there's that bit in Wayne's World where they have that whole segment where they do product placement, and like you've got the characters sort of going about like having taste or something, and then it cuts to Wayne, to Mike Myers, and he's like, yes, and it's the taste of a new generation, and he holds up a can of Pepsi. And then and it's like all that kind of stuff, and it's like all these little adverts, and that's how I felt about this. I was like, this is like because he was talking about the taste of it and about how it's like
of the new Coke, and it's better than the old Coke, and
sweeter, and this, that, the other, and I'm like, this is like he's doing an advert for new Coke. It was so weird, but so entertaining at the same time. But I was just like, what a random little moment to have in there.
And then she sort of took the thing off, went, "Do you mind?"
Yeah.
It's like, okay, do you know where he is? And because she then was looking for Dustin, that's what she was doing that with.
That's right.
The reason, because they couldn't get through with him on that walkie.
Mm-hmm.
She'd obviously they found out where he was.
Yeah.
So said, right, let's go. But obviously they left, and then you could see where they'd been patching her up and all the blood. And then there was a slimy thing that had obviously come off her leg.
Yeah.
A bit of the flayer thing.
Well, it was like, to me, it looked like some of her blood. It looked like a pool of her blood, and then it started bubbling, moving, and then it was like, oh no, if that was blood that came out of her, but it's now doing what the mind flare stuff has done, does that mean that it's like done something to her? And I was really worried that like she'd been infected, or she was, possessed or something. I was like, what? This got to mean something, surely.
Yeah.
So then we go from that back to the bathroom where Steve have sobered up a little bit after throwing up and everything, and they both sit and have this big long
chatting.
Conversation about school and about various people and their experiences at school and stuff, and
he's going back to when she said about she used to sit look at him,
and
then he started going, "I've got this really nice girl and she's really smart," and he's thought about her obviously,
and
then she realizes it's like, I wasn't looking at you because I fancied you. It was because of whatever her name, this girl it was. And she says, it was her I fancied, his face, bless him.
It's like, oh, wait, so she's a lesbian. So she was, the reason she was angry and the reason she was obsessed with Steve was not because she fancied Steve, but because she couldn't understand the fascination with him and the fact that there was this girl she liked and this girl instead was interested in Steve. And it was like, oh, what a twist in the tale, because everything has been leading to like, oh, they're setting up Robin and Steve to get together as a couple. And then that twisted it, but it was an awesome twist. It was like, that was really good. And then you had this lovely moment where it was kind of like, okay, then, so you're gay, you're not interested in me. That's cool, I guess. And then it's almost like, let's just be best friends then type attitude. And I really liked that. I was like, oh yeah, this is lovely. I like the fact that they, he wasn't freaked out or he wasn't repulsed, or especially given the time period that it's set in, he was very much like, oh, okay, that's cool. Well, you can still be my best mate type attitude. And I like that. I thought that was a really nice little scene.
Yeah. So
then
we also had the bit
Alexei and Hopper.
Well, first we had Hopper and Cobra on the way, and they found out they needed 2 keys into the vault, but they need the special code.
Yeah.
And then there was a lot of bickering in the front of the car, and that Murray started talking about Hopper and Joyce saying, like, just get on with it. Stop fannying about it, basically. Why don't you just, like, rip each other's clothes off? And they're sitting there going, what are you on about? And then he relates it back to Alexis, but obviously I didn't get any subtitles, so I didn't know what he was saying to him.
No, he basically just told Alexei what he had said to them, which was, I just told them that, no, because he was like about them sleeping together. He said, I just told them that they should sleep together and get it out of their system. And Alexei was like, you mean they haven't slept together yet? And he was like, no, can you believe that? And then they both started laughing. And then Hopper's just like, shut up. Stop this. It's like...
So when they arrived at the fair, and he says to Murray, get on. I said, no, you'll scare the kids, so stay in the car. Yeah. You two stay there.
Stay put. Where it's safe. Stay in the car where it's safe. We'll go, because then it was like, we'll find the mayor, and the mayor will be able to help us to figure out how we're going to get into this place. So yeah, they left them in the car and went off to try and look for him. And
then he spotted them before they saw him, and then he ran to his car and radioed the Russians to tell them that Hopper and that had arrived. It's like, no.
We'll stick with the fair segment for a moment, in that we then got them two sat in the car being bored of being sat in the car, and they're like, we don't want to just sit here and wait the whole time. And it's like, well, this is an American tradition, you're a visitor, a guest in our country, so come and enjoy the 4th of July.
Yeah, he never experienced such a thing, had he? So
yeah,
he thought, let's go. We're going to have a bit of fun. And so he went to this machine, went to one of the kiosks, got loads of tickets for him to play games, to win prizes. And he said, I'll go off and get something for us to eat.
And he said they're all rigged. They're all rigged, though.
Yeah.
And all this lot. And he's like, oh, well, it'll be fun. And he was, Alexei was like a kid in a candy store, wasn't he? Looking around all the lights and everything, big grin on his face.
And then all the kids were crowded around him. We could see him halfway through his game. He was playing a dart game. We had to hit the green balloon. Yeah. We got 4, I think it was. You get the big prize. And all the little kids going, you could do it, you could do it. It's like...
And what I got from this, the thing I got from this was, I thought, well, he's a scientist. He's an intelligent person. What he's probably doing, knowing that these games are fixed, he's out thinking the game. He's looking at, he's probably working out trajectory and angles and all of these kind of things, which is why he was good at it, because he put his brain into being able to, to be good at the game, sort of thing. And
he got the final one, and the kids were like, and he's like high-fiving them all. Yeah. And then he's like walking through the fair with a big woody woodpecker. I know. And he spots Murray, and he's going, Murray, and Murray's going, ha, 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 doing the woody woodpecker thing or something like that,
and he's got them corn dogs or something.
Yeah, the hot dogs on a stick.
Yeah.
We should do them at our fair. They look awesome.
Well, we used to be able to get those.
Buttered sausage on a stick.
Do you remember when, I don't know if you remember, but you used to be able to buy frozen ones where it was in a box of them, and they were covered in the like crunchy corn coating, and you had the sausage in the middle and stuff like that. But I've never seen them in real life, as in like at like a fair
fun fairs where they actually make them. I thought, I would love them. I'd love that idea, like a sausage in butter on a stick with a lolly or something. It'd be great. So he spots him and he's like going, yeah. And he's walking towards him. And at the same time, we see that horrible guy walking towards
Terminator
Alexei.
Guy.
Yeah. And as he does, somebody's playing on the same game as him. And as she pops the balloon, there's that bang. And then we realise,
and he stops, doesn't he?
no.
His facial expression changes from a big grin to oh, and he looks down and he moves Woody Woodpecker out of the way, and he's got a spreading red stain on his shirt. And then you're
Yeah.
like, oh no, and then he collapses, and Murray
No.
realizes what's happened and goes, no, and he like drops the corn dogs and runs towards him, and then it all goes into that sort of weird where the sound kind of gets distorted and disappears into the background.
He basically dragged him out the way, didn't he? Out around the side.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, Joyce and Hopper were wandering around, and they spotted Mike's mum in the wall of death. So they're going about the kids. Where? Oh, they're at my house, or they've gone to somebody else's house. And this woman was going, "Can you two stand against the wall?" And they're going, "Look, wait, just hold the ride." This is Hopper.
Yeah.
And then she got fed up with it in the end, didn't she? And she just like turned it on, and they were like, oh, they were holding hands at one point, weren't they? The two of them, like, oh, what are we on? It's like, oh, so funny.
Yeah.
So so then Murray found Hopper, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because they came out of that ride.
When they got off the ride.
And then they were walking around, and he spotted them, and he like called them over, and then he took them to where Alexi was. And
No, he didn't. He said Alexis got shot. He told Joyce, "You go and get the car," and then he spotted soldiers coming towards him.
Yeah, that's right. And there was two guys, wasn't there? There was the Terminator guy at one end of the fair, and there was another guy at the other end, and they were both coming, like, closing in on him. So then you had this whole sequence where Hopper went off, and the guy was chasing him, and I knew that this was going to happen. I said this to Zoe was about a fun fair, and I said, always in these things, there's a hall of mirrors.
House of Mirrors.
And this is exactly what happened. He eventually tracked down Hopper, and it was in this hall of mirrors, and he's going around looking for him and like seeing, oh, is that him? No, that wasn't him. That's his reflection and all of this stuff. And then they had this big fight sequence in the hall of mirrors, and Hopper managed to get the upper hand, didn't he?
He was kicking the crap out of him.
Yeah. Because he'd already beat up the other guy, because the other guy got to him first, didn't he? And he beat him up, and then he was laying in wait for the Terminator guy, and then he beat... Because, I know, sorry, I missed that. The first part of it was a fun house, and the other guy followed him in first, and he used those... I don't even know what they are. Those swinging bags that you have to go through.
Knock him out.
And he used that to, like, smash into the guy's head. And
then he got into the tiger. There was like a tiger mouth or something.
Yeah.
And that led into that hall of mirrors.
Yeah.
And then that's where the big cyber guy got in there, didn't he?
Yeah. And he chased... He went around
kept shooting reflections that weren't there. It wasn't him. So they had a big fight in there.
And I knew this was going to be the case when he ended up shooting the Terminator guy, and I was like, I bet he's got a vest on. I bet he's wearing a bulletproof vest. and obviously he was wearing a bulletproof vest. But so Hopper then managed to get out of there. And
they grabbed a walkie on his way out.
Yeah.
And then obviously went towards the other guys and they got in the car.
Yeah.
So meanwhile,
unfortunately, Alexi had passed away.
Oh yeah, when he got back to the car, it was just Joyce and Murray in the car. He said, "What about him?" And he went, "No."
And I was
I said, "Right, we've got to go." So off they charged off. So meanwhile, back at the cinema, Dustin finally found the two in the toilets.
Yeah.
And the film was finishing. So he said, "Oh, well, we'll get out with the crowd. We'll just mingle in with them all."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, there you go, we're doing really well. And then they saw the Russian guys at the door, didn't they?
Yeah.
It's like, no, we've got to hide again. So obviously they scarpered off. But meanwhile, we saw a very small bit from the shop where the stuff that they'd left behind from Elle, Billy appeared in the shop, didn't he?
Yes.
And he saw the blood and he touched it.
Yeah.
And it made him like, it's almost like the monster reignited inside him. It's like, he knows.
So then it's like, is that
if nothing else?
He's able to use that to track them, yeah.
To track them, yeah. So it's like, So basically we had the kids hiding in the Dustin's guys hiding in a mall.
Yeah.
The other guys are heading towards the mall.
Yeah.
In the other car. Then we have Hopper and his gang in the car, and they have to, because they have to walkie-talkie. He hears the baddie telling the guys that are at the mall.
Yeah.
He's radioing them about telling them that the kids are there, so they also know to go there, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
So they're hiding behind the counter, and it's all like they're going to shoot them any minute. And then all of a sudden, the car, they had a replica car.
You see this sometimes in shopping centres where they have like a car thing, and whether it's a advertisement or it's like you could win this car or whatever, and there's a cool looking car sat there, and they lingered on it, and I thought, why are they showing that car so much? Why are they focusing on it? And
well, the alarm started going off, didn't it? So they looked, and then the next thing, Al was there, push with those powers, and then the car went flying off what this thing he was on.
Yep.
Charged and smashed into all the soldiers.
Yep, took them all out.
And the other guys sort of like, what? And then we looked up, and at the top was all the other guys, Elle and her gang.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, they're all back together.
And we know that Hopper and stuff are en route. We know now all of the main cast have all been reunited. And then Elle...
all heading to the same place. And they were all having a catch up, and then she just collapsed.
Yeah.
And it's like a something inside it. And I went, ooh.
And she just screams in pain, and then it basically ended, didn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? It left us on such a... You're like, okay, this is all building to a head now. You've got the team are all reunited. Elle's in bad shape. Billy and the Mind Flayer are on their trail.
Yeah.
This is
the
all
gate's still open.
to a big...
Something is going to go off next week. Seriously. Could be a big finale.
Yeah.
It's so good. It
was an awesome episode. All of the nostalgic things, with Back to the Future and all the little references here and there, the whole thing with the new Coke, all of this kind of stuff. It was such an 80s overload.
Oh, yeah. That's what I love about the series.
And it was just so good. It was so exciting, so much going on. And the fact that we finally got all our cast together. And then poor old Alexei. I mean, that was such a sweet little storyline with him. And then for him you're thinking, I was thinking at the time, earlier on in this episode, I said to Zoe about it, and I said, I could see him becoming like a member of the cast next season. Like after all this is done and dusted, he'll end up sticking around and like he'll live with Murray or something. He'll be like his weird flatmate. And then we'll see him in the in the next season, and that was where my mind was going, because I thought
poor old Murray though, so bad, didn't he?
Yeah,
because I just stopped to get us some hot dogs. It's like he felt like if I'd have left him, that might not have happened, because they got together. They got on really well, didn't they? Those two.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
for a guy who lives on his own and keeps everyone away from him, he was sort of finally opened up to somebody, didn't he?
Yeah.
So it's like, it was sad.
It was very sad indeed.
But yeah, there you go. Till next week, the final.
Yeah, so next week we will have the finale, and it was something that I mentioned obviously previously, was the timing is impeccable, because we've got the finale of Stranger Things next week, and then the following week we then get to replace Stranger Things with American Horror Story. So our timeline of how
that's also based in the 80s.
Which is also based in the 80s, which is very interesting. So the fact that we've managed to, without even planning it, we've managed to do this so that one ends just as a new thing begins. I was really impressed with that. I was like, couldn't have worked better if we'd planned it, sort of thing.
Thank you, Bella, for having a holiday.
Yes.
Otherwise, we would have finished it too early.
Yeah.
And then we go, we've got two things this week. So then let's move on to the final one then.
So now, yes, we move on to our last episode of this week's review, and this is our review of Preacher. This episode was entitled The Lost Apostle, and things started to make a little bit more sense.
Definitely.
It was, wow, what an episode. So much stuff happened in this episode. So we open the episode with the old movies, the old Bible movies they used to make, like the things with what's his name in Laurence Olivier and people like that.
Yeah,
like those old sort of like
Lancaster.
Yeah, Technicolor, Paramount Pictures, biblical epics and things like that. And it's kind of like this, and it's because you can see the way that it's filmed. It looks like it was done many years ago, and it's Abraham basically, and it's the whole scene where Abraham was going to sacrifice his son for God. He was going to kill his only son and all of this. And it was really weird though, because they all had like American accents, and Abraham was a bit of a dick. Like the whole argument with his wife, and she's like, "What are you gonna do? Hit me again and lock me in the bedroom and all this kind of stuff." So it was like a biblical epic with a preacher comedy twist. And then he's talking to the son. He put him on the rock, and he's like, "Oh, it's going to be good for both of us." And he's like, "Oh, Dad, is it all going to be good now?" And he's like, "Yeah, it will be," and all this stuff. And he's just about to kill him, and then God shows up and tells him to stop. And then he's like, "Abraham, you have passed the test, my child." And he's like, "So I don't have to kill my son?" He's like, "No, you don't." And he's like, "But I did it for you because I love you so much." And then God's like, "Come here," and he sort of give him a hug, and then
big hug,
and then it rewound, and he's like, "I did it for you. I love you so much." And it kept playing that scene over and over, and then it panned out, and it turned out it's being watched on an old-fashioned TV set by God in his trailer.
Reminiscing.
Yep, and he was watching videotapes of. It wasn't a film he was watching. It was actually like the idea of that is that was supposed to be that real moment in biblical history.
Yeah, it's a memory, wasn't it?
But he somehow got them on VHS, which is really weird.
And then we spotted he had a truck on his table, Dom.
Yes, he had a truck on
last
his table.
Week.
Yeah, and he also goes. Yeah, last week where we said about the weird thing where the trucks kept appearing in front of Jesse, and we also had all the other little models that we've seen building, and they're building more and more models are building up on this desk to the point where we actually saw God sit down and he was working on a new model, wasn't he? And he started picking up things and little paintbrushes, and you're like, he's creating these as he goes along.
Yeah. And then he rang up Star, didn't he, for an update on Humperdoo?
Yes. And Star lied to him once again.
And he's like so excited, like, "When are we going to meet up?" And he said, not long. And he goes, "Phase 2, escalate as phase 2.
Yeah.
It's like, what's phase 2?
And you've got in the background, you've got Jesus and Hitler trying to hammer out a deal. You didn't really hear much of what they were saying. It was just sort of background babble that they were sort of arguing backwards and forwards about things. And obviously we find out a little bit more what they were talking about a bit further in the episode, but the negotiations were clearly underway.
So phase 2 escalates, so we don't, what's this all about? So then it goes New Zealand. Yeah. And then we got this car.
And it was the New Zealand consulate or embassy or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah. And who's in and I was like, "Who's in that car?" And someone was shooting in the car, and then all of a sudden this box was chucked out. And inside the box was the diplomat he killed. And he said he was going to blame it on the Australians.
Yeah, because the car had the Australian coat of arms on the side of it to show that it was
they were saying the Aussies. Yeah. So basically, he's trying to incite trouble between Australia and New Zealand.
This is so funny that we've got this episode on the week that we had Skippy on, because so much of this episode is based in Australia. So again, impeccable timing.
And then when we saw this box, and then we looked and when we realised, obviously, the other week he'd bundled in to blame that, and there was God. He had a toy nuclear bomb.
Yeah, he was attaching the sticker.
That's what he was painting and sticking.
The nuclear sticker.
Little stickers on it.
He put on it, didn't he?
Indeed. Then we had Tulip and Kaz arriving.
We had something. We didn't, at the time, it wasn't that obvious because we had a harbour and a boat, and then you had a car come careening off the boat, and then you go, "Oh, okay, we know who's in this car," and you just get this whole sequence of like, I don't know, it's like in a action movie where there's a car chase or something, and they're just like driving at high speed, cutting through all the traffic lights, swerving around corners, and then eventually they pull around and they do a handbrake turn and pull the car into park, which knocks down a sign, and then it's Cassidy and Tulip in sunglasses turning up outside an Australian police station.
Yeah. And they got there and they said they wanted to see the high up woman, and she kept saying the same old stuff to them. And she goes, "Da da 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 da," and I goes, "Who are you anyway?" And she goes, "We're the Americans."
Yeah, that bit was so funny. Again, such satirical commentary, because obviously, we know
undercover cops.
Seth Rogen makes this show, so it's American made with American people behind it. But it was very much this knowing joke of like, that Americans always try and police the world, and Americans just show up and expect to just be like, "We're here to take over because we're the Americans." And that was like, there was no, like Cassidy flashed something that was, not even really anything. It looked like a driver's license. And she put a big gun on the counter, and then they're just like, we're the Americans, like, we're here to take over.
And they were both and even he was talking in an American accent, wasn't he?
Yep. and then you got them chatting to like and there was an Aussie bloke, and he was the commissioner, and he's like, oh, I'll be right, mate, and all this stuff. And then Cassidy's like, no, it won't be right, mate, and all this kind of stuff. He's like trying to put on this American accent, saying, repeating what the Aussie guy's saying to him, but back in an American accent. And then they're talking about that they're there because they're on this manhunt looking for this preacher. And he's like, I didn't realize you blokes were interested in this. And you fellas coming over here and all this stuff. And they're like, of course, he's a person of interest. And he's like, oh, well, it doesn't matter anyway, because, he's...
Your man's dead.
Yeah, your man's dead. And he's like, what?
And the killer's locked up.
And then Cassidy's like accent slipped for a minute, and he spoke in his Irish accent, and he went, I mean, what? And they're like, yeah, we've got the culprit downstairs, and he's a funny looking fella, that one, and all this stuff.
No, he says like got a face like an ass.
Something
like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then what did he say? I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't find the body stuck up inside that ass face of his or something. I was like, oh my god.
But they hadn't found a body. They said we hadn't found a body, but this guy has been incarcerated for this.
Yeah, because he'd admitted to it. He basically admitted that he shot and killed him. So then you have him tied up, like chained to the table and stuff, and Tulip went in to interrogate him. And she's like, Eugene, I know you. You wouldn't do something like that. You're not that type of person. And he's like trying to explain what happened. And then he basically said he wasn't actually sure if he was dead. And then he was like, but I hope for his sake that he is. And she's like, what does that mean? What do you mean by that, Eugene? And then he sort of goes, ooh, and the camera sort of zooms out on his face.
And then it showed the Saint and Jesse, and he's torturing him, wasn't he?
Oh my god, yeah, with a big knife.
He had the flaming sword. He made it blue on it. He made it flaming. I guess he's got the flaming sword. Yay! Too apocalyptic.
Yep.
And then he tried the Genesis on it, didn't he? He goes like, don't do that. And it's like, oh, that didn't work.
Yeah, and then what was interesting here was it turned out what we thought originally was him stabbing Jesse and torturing him. It wasn't. He was removing the bullet, and then he heated up the knife to cauterize the
he did cauterize. Yeah, that's what he was doing, yeah.
And then he's like, and then we then got the big twist reveal as far as the Saint's concerned, in that clearly who he was talking about when he was talking to Eugene about his vengeance and everything like that, he wasn't talking about Jesse at all. Because he said to Jesse, I need you. You're going to help me kill God.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's why he wanted Jesse. He didn't want Jesse so he could kill him. He wanted Jesse because he knows what Jesse can do. And he's like, you and me, we're going to go and kill God because of what he did. So all that time back when he was having that conversation with Eugene, and he was on about, he took my family and this, that, and you and me are going, what's he talking about? Jesse didn't do all of that. He wasn't talking about Jesse.
Yeah.
So that mystery,
it all came clear, didn't
that's one mystery that we had from a couple of episodes back that got resolved in this episode, was that it's like, that all makes sense now. And so he was like, you're coming with me.
Well, he was trying to talk him down. He was like, no, we can't be doing this. And he's like, he wanted answers. And he said, I want answers too. And the Saint wasn't having it. And he's like, he just walked off, and Jesse's all had to follow him. Just all like, I've got to keep an eye on what he's up to. It's like, this isn't happening.
Yeah.
Don't know what he's, this can't happen. And then we had a little snippet of Jesus and Hitler at the conference table, having an argument, and he said something Jesus said something, and Hitler wasn't in agreement. He said, well, but I'll keep the gays or something.
Yeah, what this was to do with deathbed confessionals and repentance. And he said about like making it, keeping that rule in place so that people, when they're on their deathbed, if they repent and they're truly sorry, their soul can be redeemed and they'll get to go to heaven. And then Hitler says, basically talking about himself, he's like, so you're telling me that if somebody commits genocide, starts a world war, does this, does that, does the other, but then says sorry before they die, they'll be forgiven. And Jesus is like, well, yeah. And he's like, oh, this is ridiculous. They should come to me. And he's like, no, I'm not budging on this. And then he said something about like, if you're not willing to negotiate, I'll take back the gays.
Yeah,
Because again,
the homosexuals or something.
Yeah, it was a nice little bit of social commentary to say that, like, you know, a long time ago, a lot of staunch religious people believed that, like, if you were homosexual, then you were going to hell. But then progressive thinking is sort of then saying, like, you know, well, God doesn't make mistakes. So even the Pope nowadays has said this, like, you know, he's basically accepting of the gay community because he's like, well, you know, God, who are we to, as human beings, to
It's
question
free will,
God?
isn't it? The same thing, isn't
And
it?
he's like, yeah, God doesn't, if we believe that God is infallible and God doesn't make mistakes, then therefore the existence of homosexuality is clearly also part of God's design. So therefore we can't condemn homosexuals. So then they're sort of playing that out in Preacher by saying that Jesus is basically taking in the homosexuals and saying that, you know, people that are homosexual will also get to go to heaven. But then they're throwing back to that old-fashioned viewpoint of him saying, I'll take back the gays. And, you know, I thought it was clever bit of subtext, social commentary. You know, it was a nice little bit of writing that was sort of.
And it turned out that the reason those two were there, that her start pointing out basically, because of this apocalypse is going to happen, and you two have to decide who goes up and who goes down, basically.
Yeah, they got to divvy up.
So that was their job. Their job was to divvy up who should stay and who should not.
Yep.
Who should go up, who should go down when this apocalypse kicks in. So basically that is what the point of them. So what, you know, the bit where the saint wandered off when Jesse was trying to talk him down?
Yeah.
He'd spotted a house in a different distance, hadn't he? I was thinking, they could hear people in it. I was thinking, oh no, this isn't going to go well.
And this is where we then had another little bit of an argument where Jesse was like saying, why won't you listen to me and all this kind of stuff? And he saying all this stuff about like him being a cowboy without a horse, and, you know, what's the point of being a demon if you can't, like, he asked him for a light and he's like, what's the point of being a demon if you can't smoke, and all of this stuff. And then he attempted to, like, because he realized he couldn't command him with the Genesis power, he took the saint's guns. And he had that cool scene where he pulled the guns out on him.
It didn't work.
And then he pulled the triggers and nothing happened. And the saint just sort of smirked, because clearly the bullets in his guns are like, they're like heavenly. They're like magic bullets. So the guns aren't loaded with bullets. The bullets just appear based on his will. You know, they're not loaded with bullets as conventional guns would be. And he then was like, because he said about like being in Australia and about them being in the arse end of the world. And he said about there being the snakes there. And he said, I tried to command a snake because there's a snake here that can bite you. And then it will like bite, what did he say? Bite your balls and it will make them fill up with blood and explode and this, that, and the other or something. And then after he'd said all that, he went for the guns and stuff. That didn't work. And then the saint was like, I preferred the snake idea. As if to say, you know, that idea might have been better than you trying to take my guns off me, because that's not going to work. Yeah. And so he holsters the guns back.
And then he just walked off and he was like following him, but he was going towards the house.
Well, he said about, he also said the other thing you need to point out here, the reason was he was going to make a demonstration, because he was on about his guns and about how they can kill God. And he said, you can't kill God. And he said, I have guns that are able to destroy a planet. And he's like, you know, this is how powerful my guns are. I can kill God. I'm surprised he didn't turn around and say, I killed the devil with them, so I can kill God. But he said, you know, I can destroy a planet with my guns. And he's like, but let me talk to him. Let me deal with God. You don't worry about it and this, that, and the other. And he just ignored him and walked away. And then he stopped to a certain point, didn't he? And he said about a demonstration. And then Jesse stopped and he was like, where are you going? Hey. And then he went, and then it dawned on him, because like you say, he was walking towards that farmhouse. And then he went, no. And ran after him. But then it cut away from that scene.
So then we turn up at the house with Tulip and Cassidy a little while later, and they realised he had been there because all the people had been strung up. Yeah, because that's what he did.
You are clearly what happened here, because they're pretending to be like American law enforcement and they were at the police station. There's a copper that had clearly radioed through to say that something had happened, and then you see this copper come out of the house and he like throws up everywhere, and them two pull up and then they go in, and like you said, this whole family have been slaughtered. And then that's like, okay, we now know that there's clearly something going on out here, and we're on the right track.
Yeah.
So then they carry on driving, and they ended up in the outback, didn't they?
Yeah, there's no more roads, and it's just like, we're in the outback.
And it's just desert, and it just comes up on the screen. It just says, the outback.
But unfortunately, for the outback, so were the Kiwis, as they call them.
Yes.
Who turned up with a nuclear... They passed with a nuclear truck, didn't they?
Yeah,
There
because
was
you
a
get...
little outpost, wasn't there?
Well, you get this bit. Yeah, I was trying to work this out at the time. To begin with, I was confused because I was like, there isn't like a border patrol between New Zealand and Australia. But that's what it looked like. You had these two Australian soldiers in like traditional outfit with their turned up hats and everything. And they're sat and they're like one with binoculars. And then he's like, something's coming. And then they're looking and you're like, what's this little outpost? I don't understand. And you see this vehicle careering towards them. And then he's like, bloody hell, it's the Kiwis. And the New Zealand car pulls up and like kills these two blokes. And then breaks through, and then you see the sign, and it says "Lost Apostle National Park."
Yeah, and they had the big nuke on the back of it,
and
didn't
they had the nuke on the back, covered in a blanket. And so then you're like, that's what was going on. They're like, they were guards for this national park because it's like a heritage site, and this escalating thing to say, oh, the Australians and the New Zealand, the New Zealanders and the Aussies are now at war with each other. And the next part in this escalation is the New Zealanders coming there to detonate a nuclear bomb.
Yeah. It's like, oh, no. So, because Tulip and Cassidy didn't know what to do, so they went to a diner, didn't they? They were sitting there. So like, where are we going to go? He's here somewhere. And then the letter was mentioned, wasn't it? Cassidy mentioned the letter she got from Jessie.
And she said she hadn't
never
read
it. And he goes, there might be clues in it. So basically he wanted to read it and get the clues.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had a look through it, and he kept looking at her, didn't he, as he was reading it. And he goes, there's no clues in there.
Yeah.
And then she's going, he's there somewhere, he's out there. And then she said, I'm going outside. She said, he's sat in there smoking, wasn't he, in the cafe? And she goes, I'm going outside for a smoke.
Uh-huh.
They're going out for a smoke. And then while she was out there, she heard some music and spotted a camper van.
And and funnily enough, we'd seen this trailer before, hadn't we?
Yes.
Because it's God's camper van. It's God's trailer.
Yes.
So it's like, oh, that's a nice little bit of coincidence that they're both there at the same place.
Yeah.
And you also have the cut back to Cassidy sat there, and this waitress comes over and asks him if he wants a cuppa. And he's like, no, I don't want another cuppa. Ever since I came to this country, everybody just keeps wanting to give me cups of tea. And he's like, I want drugs. And he's going on about what he wants. And then she's like, well, there's some fire retardant out the back.
Fire retardant, yeah.
And he's like, aha.
It's like, oh dear. So anyway, she went in, she was snooping around the van and she was looking through it, and then she spotted the costume, didn't she? The dog costume.
And then she spotted all of the other stuff.
She realised it was, and then she saw all the toys.
Yeah.
And it all related to Jessie, the church.
Mm-hmm.
Everything related to Jessie was there on there.
And then she sees the figures.
Sees the post. Oh yeah, and there was a figure of God and Jessie, and then she saw a postcard which said the lost apostle was on it. And while she was in there, God was hiding.
Yeah, we found this out afterwards.
And they had a weird creature in a cage, didn't he? Because we heard that when he was talking to Stars. Going, what's that? He goes, oh, don't worry about that. He said, is that the guinea pig? And he said, no, but we never saw what it was.
No, and it's like,
she sort of,
I wonder what
she
the deal
looked,
is
and
about.
then
I
thought, what's the deal about that? Anyway, so that was that, and then
so that was their clue, basically.
So she went back to see Cassidy, who's had all this red stuff on his face, and he said it was it fire retardant? What did you say it was called?
Yeah, fire retardant. Yeah.
And then she said, well, how are we going to get there? Where have we got to go? I know where we're going. And he goes, we're going to go in that. And there was a plane, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they're going to get a plane.
Uh-huh. So then now they know that there's something being set up, that God has been playing chess with Jessie's life, and that the next location is the Lost Apostle. So they're going to head there in the plane and try and catch up with Jessie. Then we cut back to Jessie and the Saint.
No, we didn't.
No, we got a phone call.
Star.
Yeah.
He got his phone call to say that God wanted to meet him finally.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
To give him his reward. So he said he's off to Oz. He said he left Jesus and Hitler to get on with it. And he said he'll be attractive when he returns.
Yes, because that's clearly the thing that he desires. When we got that thing a couple of weeks ago about him getting his desired reward, the desired reward he wants is for playing his part in bringing about the apocalypse. He'll get his looks back. He'll get his beauty. That's what he wants.
But what was weird? Who was the guy making the coffee that looked really dodgy?
Featherstone.
Who?
The girl. It was for Agent Featherstone. She had like a fake moustache and stuff on.
Oh, the woman that flew away. The squirrel woman. Ah, because she was like, whoever it was like listening, thinking, I need to ask Dom who that was.
Yeah, no. I realised when it showed the person, I went, hey, wait a second. That's the woman, the Agent Featherstone or whatever her name is. She's she's obviously got back in there and she's in disguise.
Because we could never remember her name, could we? Every other time, I kept saying Stars woman. Yeah, because when you said Featherstone, it's like, who's Featherstone? Oh yeah, I get what you mean. So yeah, so then Tulip and I get in the plane, and they try circling over the outback, and they found him. They saw him. Oh, that was so clever, wasn't it?
Yeah, and
he spotted him, hadn't he?
He was walking with the Saint. They went overhead. Him and the Saint are just having this kind of low-key, not very interesting conversation. And then in the plane, they're talking about, will he know what to do? And then she's like, oh, he'll know, or he knows, or something. And it's like, this bit confused. I was little bit confused because I was like, was it some kind of weird psychic bond thing? It's like, or because they've done other stuff in the past, where they've had to do getaway missions and stuff, that he's going to know exactly how to behave once they initiate this plan. That's the only thing I could glean from it, because I thought they didn't have an opportunity to set this up or communicate with each other. So, or maybe it's just as simple as, like you said, he actually spotted the plane and realized what was going on.
Yeah, there's a plan somewhere.
So the plane circles round.
Yeah.
And then he's talking to the Saint, and he says something about, what did he say about him trying to kill him? And he said, oh, don't worry. The Saint said to him, don't worry, when this is all done and dusted, I will be. Because he say, I miss the days when you were after me, trying to kill me. And he said, oh, don't worry, those days will come again. Like, once this job's been done, those days will come again. Don't you worry. And he's like, okay. And then he's like, well, they won't for now. And what did he swear at him or something, or tell him to, like, eat shit or something like that?
Yeah.
And then he just started
and then all of
running.
A sudden, it's like running away from him. And then all of a sudden, there's all this spray coming out of the red spray, like, obviously that retardant stuff.
Yeah.
Sprayed all over the Saint, and Jesse was running and running. They grabbed him and jumped him on the plane. It's like, saved him.
They did that cool thing where they come in low, they opened the door, Cassidy stuck out his hand and like grabbed Jesse and pulled him in, didn't he? And then did you notice though, as he pulled him in and where they went to close the door wasn't quite closed properly.
No.
There was like a crack in the door as they closed it. And I was like, oh, why did they show that? And then you saw the Saint, and the Saint was like, the smoke cleared, and he was like all red and raging, and he's like, and he like lifted his guns up, but for some reason he couldn't shoot them because he couldn't.
They got too far away,
he couldn't see them properly and stuff, and he was like, So I was like, ooh.
We had this little chat in the plane, and he's going, she didn't speak to him, did she, at all?
No. And he said about the letter, didn't he? About reading the letter.
Yeah. He goes, oh, no, she hadn't. And he's made out she hadn't even looked at it, didn't he, Cassidy? He's like, so you ever going to talk to me again? They're just sitting in the plane. So off they go. So then we go back to the New Zealanders with the... They're getting the nuke ready. And then our friend Skippy pops by.
Yes, this like backpacker guy. And he's like asking them what they're doing. And he's like, hey, who are you guys? And they're like, we're from New Zealand. And he's like, no, you're not. And they're like, yeah, we are. What did he call? I can't remember what he said. He said something, and the other mate, the Australian guy, was like, "You're not taking me for a drongo," and all this. He's like, "I know what a Kiwi looks like, and you're not a Kiwi." And then it's just like, and then they just looked at each other as if say, "Oh, okay, we can't fool this guy." They just killed him.
They killed him.
Yep.
Like, again.
I was like, "Oh my god, this poor guy."
I know.
And then they just got back to prepping the bomb.
They prepping the bomb, and then we saw God and Star at the Apostles' Rock as well, because they were at the Apostles' Rock, weren't they?
Yeah, because
Star and God are waiting.
Yeah.
And then Star is still hoping God will make him beautiful.
And then God says,
and then
how's my child?
God starts talking about, checking on Humperdoo, wasn't he?
And he says, oh, he's great. He's getting his, what did he say? He's getting his nails done, or he's getting his feet pedicured or something, and getting himself all ready, and it's going to be wonderful. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he's like, you don't believe me, do you?
Said, I lost him, didn't you?
That's why you keep
I was going to tell
me.
you. Yeah. And then we hear this really bad noise in the background, and he's going, And he mentioned what the name of it is. It's a dingo, but he said the real name of it
Like,
and
was it
stuff like that.
Canis lupus something or other? One of my most vicious creations. And he says, otherwise known as the dingo. And then it's running towards her star. And as it is, he's saying about what it's designed for. Like, the creature is designed for going for the jugular on its prey, but it sometimes has to compensate for height difference.
Yeah.
So
And he just got attacked by this thing, and then he just turned around and said, "Never cross me again."
well, it bit him in the balls, didn't it?
Yeah.
That was the compensation for height difference. It went straight for his nuts. And it was like ripping away at them. And yeah, like you say, God was just sipping his coffee and he just kind of sideways glanced a little bit. It was like, don't ever cross me again. And you're like, oh my God. So again, paying off yet another thing from when we spoke weeks ago about him keep fibbing. And it's like, but this is God. And like, I remember having this conversation with Zoe and she's like, how can he be lying to God? Surely God must know. And then it's
it's obvious.
God did know. God was just giving him an opportunity, but eventually he got fed up of the opportunity.
Yeah. So while they were Jess and that were in the plane, he said about how did you find me, and he said, oh, Jess found this camper van and she found this postcard because she still wasn't talking to him.
Yeah.
Still like driving the plane. He goes, he knows he's waiting on me, isn't he? He knows I'm coming.
And then you go, wait, so her finding the trailer wasn't coincidence. It was again all part of the plan. It was, and he's like, it's a setup. And he's like, quickly, get out of here. It's a setup. And just as they come to that realization, we see God again, very briefly.
Yeah.
And what did he do?
He did like bolts of lightning almost at the plane, didn't he?
And he made the bomb explode.
Yeah. And what happened? What do we see?
We got a massive explosion and there was a big mushroom cloud. So he'd obviously detonated the nuclear bomb and they're trying to bank the plane to get out of there because obviously the cloud is like affecting the plane, causing all this turbulence, and the plane banks to the side and the door that
and by the crack in the door,
it comes flying off, and then you're like, oh my God, and then it dawns on you, I know what's going on here. Jesse falls out and Cassidy grabs him.
And because of the heat and then out exposing his arms like disappearing.
Yeah, because obviously sunlight.
You can't take that. And Jesse just told him just like let me go because he knew that if he doesn't, they're gonna die.
And he's like, I'm not letting you go. I'm not letting you go. We've just got you back. And he's like, tell Tulip to read the letter. And then he's like, you've got to, Cass. You've got to. And he's like, I won't. And then he uses the voice and he goes, let me go.
Let me go.
And then Cassidy lets go of him, but then watches as Jesse falls from the sky. And then we got the shot that we got at the very beginning of the series of the plane and then a body falling from the plane. And then it was like, again, another question we had the other week when we were talking about, did that happen? Didn't it happen?
Or did he change his mind and let him fall in the water?
And no, he didn't.
Didn't change his mind.
So Jesse fell from the sky.
But he wasn't moving. It's like, is he alive? Is he dead? What's going on?
Yeah, because it cut back to Cassidy and he pulled back into the plane and put the flames out on his arm. Tulip looked back at him as if to say, Jesse? And he sort of looked at her like, no. And then she looked like she was going to cry. And then she, like, obviously accelerated the plane because of the extra weight had gone and stuff like that. They were able to get out of there. And then it panned down and showed Jesse and it zoomed in and zoomed in. I was waiting for him to blink. I thought that was going to how it was going to end. Because I was like, they're going to close in on his face and then he's going to blink. But no, he didn't.
Or open his eyes or do something. And he didn't move. It's like, oh.
And that was the end.
I know. It's like, oh.
I was like, I can't wait until the next episode.
Yeah.
So we've got 4 left, though. So now you're like, he can't be dead because otherwise, what's going to happen for the remaining 4 episodes?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I can't wait. Oh, it's like, oh.
It was great. And it, like I said, it paid off.
So good.
Paid off on so many questions we had. It paid off on so many things that we were confused about. It gave us more insight into other bits and pieces. And just altogether, it was just like a really awesome, exciting, funny, cool episode.
It's brilliant.
And I just can't wait until next week.
Yeah, I can't either. So there you have it.
Well, there you have it. So that's us done for another week. So it's been a very fun, very different 25th anniversary episode.
It's been good.
been good. We've had some good shows to talk about, and we had our great guest on at the beginning.
Yeah, amazing Skippy.
Yeah, thank you again to Skippy for joining us. And don't forget to check in the description box for the links to his Twitter and also to his channel. Go and check him out. And
yeah, he's awesome.
We will return with more next week. So, as I said at the top of the show, hit the like button, hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed this podcast, and let us know that you're enjoying what we do and we entertained you. Leave us comments down below so that we can maybe mention you next week on the show, and we can answer your questions or see what your feedback was about these programs. And also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. It would be great for you to help grow this Geek-Dom and join us, pledge allegiance. And also in the description box, as well as Skippy's links, you've also got the timestamps for the episode, the link to my Twitter so you can come and follow and chat to me on there, and the links to my donation mediums should you feel kind enough to drop us a little something to support what we're doing with the podcast, what I'm doing with the channel, and what I hope to do in the future. But, you know, we're not going to hold a gun to your head and say that you have to do it. There we go. Thank you very much, Mum. It's been a pleasure, as always.
Yeah, it's been great.
And I look forward to speaking to you again on next week's episodes.
Indeed, you will.
So you take care now, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, 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 bye.